Yes, I am. There we go. Alrighty. Now that that's set up, I've got this set up right here. This is set up. All right, we're good. Let's see what Howard Lutnick has to say. Oh, boy.
Here with me now is Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. I want to start with what President Trump said on social media, that there was much agreed to in negotiations on Saturday. What were some of the things that they agreed on in these talks in Switzerland?
So what's so funny about everything going on with these guys right now is they are trying so hard, like Lutnick and not Navarro. Navarro thinks everything is going swimmingly, but all of the economic advisors that are around Trump right now are coping and seething so fucking hard, trying to make this seem like a win, trying to extract a win out of it, like anything at all, or something that they can announce and call a win. So that's what they did with, the English quote unquote deal that came out recently. I think on Friday this past week, but it wasn't actually a deal. It was a framework. You could say it was a concept of a deal. A concept of a deal. They don't have anything to show for all the time that they've put in. And this is with someone that we have a trade surplus with. We have a trade surplus with them. And we can't even settle on a trade deal with them? How are we going to get a deal with China? How are we going to get a deal with Vietnam? How are we going to get a deal with, our top 5 trading partners who we do the most trading with? Who we buy the most shit from? How are we going to do it? It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
all of that was to say, all of that is to say that these guys know that they're fucked. They know that they haven't gotten anything out of any of the talks that they've had. They know that the economy is looking really rough. And now they have to go on to, MSNBC and State of the Union and all of these different shows on CNN, on all these different shows, and defend it. And you can see how uncomfortable they are the entire time.
Agreed on in these talks in Switzerland.
Well, first, I just have to wish you a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
What a great day to be alive, and I want to wish my wife a happy Mother's Day as well. The team is in Switzerland, meeting with their counterparts from China, and they are hard at it. There's a lot to accomplish.
Did you see them framing progress on a deal as a deal being reached? Yeah, that's what I was talking about with the. That's what I was talking about with the British deal. It was, they had begun having those conversations with the British. They started having those conversations, and the initial framework of what a deal could possibly might begin to look like if they started negotiating is what they've released. Nothing more.
There's both a lot to take care of and get off the table.
Something to keep in mind. I believe the number that I heard from one of these guys, it wasn't Lutnick, it was the other, it wasn't Lutnick, it wasn't Navarro, it was the third economist in the White House. They said these deals typically take about 18 months to get through. 18 months. And that's when the other side is happy to do the negotiations. Faded 702 says, I hate liberals. Cool. I'm supposed to take seriously a dude with a sock on a mic? That's why it's there, to piss you off. Besson, yeah.
And they're working hard at it. At the end of the day, they felt good. The president felt good. And I'm going to leave it to them. But it felt good yesterday. The president tweeted that out and truthed that out. But things feel really good.
Well, he said
Do
even more
they?
than that, as you saw. The president said there was a total reset.
Things feel really good. Things feel really good, he says through gritted teeth. It is better to fail at originality than to succeed in imitation. True.
So did something fundamentally change, or is he sort of saying that to try to encourage the talks to continue?
Well, I'm leaving it to the trade team. You know, they're there right now. They're in the room right now. So I'm just going to leave it to them to take care of that themselves. And but they felt good.
Oh, also, I don't know if this actually happened or if it stuck, or if they went back or not. But I saw reporting that the Chinese delegation in Switzerland walked out of the negotiations. Is that true? Like they just like walked out almost immediately? The sock keeps distortion and echoing away? No, actually, that would be the pop filter that's underneath the microphone or underneath the sock. The sock is there simply to piss people off.
Good yesterday, and that was really uplifting. I mean, what a day yesterday. I mean, ceasefire in India and Pakistan. I mean, how wonderful is that?
Ceasefire was violated within 3 hours.
Think of the lives that the United States, J.D. Vance and Senator Marco Rubio got involved. The president was involved. I mean, how wonderful to cause a ceasefire all the way on the other side of the world. Wonderful, wonderful day for Mother's Day.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on.
Wait, they had already violated the ceasefire by the time Mother's Day came around, right? If we go to like news and we see okay, let's just look up India, Pakistan, ceasefire. Okay. India Pakistan ceasefire appears to hold after accusations of violations. Okay, so they didn't just drop it. India and Pakistan both claim victory. Okay, that's good. Okay, I thought that they were still violating it.
One other question, and I completely understand where you are, that it's the Secretary of the Treasury who is over there. But do you have any sense, I know you're in touch with them, if China has made any concessions?
I want to leave it to the team to take care of that. I mean, this is really important for the United States. It's really important to China. Let's let the team.
And here's a question, and I don't know the answer to this one, but I would assume that they don't have any incentive. Does the Chinese government have an incentive to end this quickly? I don't know, like, legitimately how long they can last. Seeing as they're going around and they are doing some trade deals of their own and they're trading through Vietnam to us. So they're still, they're still getting trade to us. We're just paying a higher price for it. Like, can they outlast us on that? Or can they, when I say outlast us, I'm not saying they have to down to zero, right? I'm saying before one side gives into the pain. China doesn't have to give into the pain because they're a dictatorship. They can write it down to zero or until the population completely overthrows them, right? If they wanted to. But Trump is going to have to give up way sooner than that, They were months away from financial collapse. People have said that the entire time that I have been paying attention to politics, that China's close to collapse. I think that they have some precarious parts of their economy, but I don't know if this is that. They did walk away, but then they came back. Let's see here. It took China less than an hour to walk out on trade talks with the U.S. Breaking: China's vice premier He Lifeng and Chinese delegation has walked out midway through U.S.-China trade talks in Geneva. Oof. They're back negotiating, but China did walk away earlier today. Damn. They must have said something really fucking stupid. American History X to Fight Club? I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry. They're severely over leveraged. Again, I've heard that a million times, but like people say the same thing about the United States. I don't know if this is what's going to tip them over the edge. And again, I think that they're still like, I think that the another story that I've heard is that Vietnam has seen no drop off in the amount of exports to the United States since or hold on, no, I have that backwards. They've had a massive increase in imports from China, but they've had no change to their exports. Is that what it is? Something like that. So essentially what is happening is China is funneling their goods through Vietnam because there's a 125% tariff on China and a 10% on Vietnam now. So these are market more than we need their goods. I don't know if that's true. I know that that's it's about how long people are willing to put up with the pain. I don't think people are willing to put up with the pain for this for like no discernible reason.
Team take care of that, and they're hard at it right now, and everybody's rooting for them from both sides, but I think we're optimistic that things will work out well.
Oh yeah, also Russia managed to hang around despite everything, and Russia has always had a significantly weaker economy compared to China in terms of like, since probably even since the year 2000, to be honest, but I could be wrong on that, but they've overtaken them obviously. But like if Russia can still survive and still have some quality of life and not be starving with the amount of sanctions and the cutting them out of the SWIFT network and all of this stuff, if none of that brought Russia to heel and all of those sanctions against Iran didn't bring Iran to heel, I doubt that with how much leverage China does have all over the world, that the same that anything different would happen with them.
Okay. As the Secretary of Commerce, I do want to ask about the fact that there are no ships carrying goods from China bound for the West Coast right now. President Trump said earlier this week that drops in imports is actually a good thing because it's going to affect people's wallets and jobs. Well, he said it's a good thing because it shows that the imports that the tariffs are working, but in reality, it's going to affect people's wallets and jobs.
Also, something that I'm sure everyone listening has heard at this point is that there is a big issue at the ports. They're just not having any ships come in. It takes like 45 days to make the trip from China to the United States with, these giant container ships. And those 45 days since the beginning of this massive trade war got launched, it's come. And now we're going to begin to see the beginnings of the product shortages. And it's unavoidable at this point. It's unavoidable, right? It'll take several weeks after we end for more, for all these ships to start making the trip over the ocean back to the United States. So it'll be 45 days from the end of whatever trade war we're doing right now, right? And then it'll be another couple of weeks before those products go from port to actual in the store. I read a book by the author of Fight Club book. He was hilarious. He gave out fake severed legs at his book signing events. Interesting. I've never had the opportunity to see Fight Club. So I probably should because it's just one of those classics that everyone has seen. Everyone in the entire world has seen. But I personally, am not everyone else. So by the way, if you're watching on the short stream right now, I see there's 65 people watching. Hi, welcome. My name is Sondsol. I'm a political science student. I like to talk about politics, and we ought to also talk about a bunch of other things. Speaking of which, where is the amaranth? Where is the amaranth window? Let's see. Anything crazy happening here?
Off of it, because otherwise the withdrawal is going to be a bitch. That's what he told me. And I did that, and it actually did work.
Oh, he's just streaming from her setup.
But in this particular case,
okay, got it. Anyways,
I don't recall
So we'll see if she comes back in and starts screaming at him in a minute. So we do politics and we do drama and we do all sorts of stuff here, but this is basically just a hangout stream of current topics, and I like to argue with people. So if you guys are fine with having your points of view challenged, then this is a good spot for you. If you're watching on YouTube, please double tap the screen and like the stream. It helps me out more than you could possibly imagine. Also, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you were to go to my actual channel, shut up, you could see the full stream. Look at that. Oh my gosh. It has a completely different layout and all the different, whatever, cool. So you can go and watch it like that if you don't like the vertical setup. All right, we're going to get back into it. Any questions for me before we get started back into it? He's claiming that she gave a fresh and fit producer a hand job in the parking lot. No shot.
This would have been a nothing burger. Or even if it was a fight, she just wouldn't have streamed for like a couple hours or maybe at most a day. But because the whole thing happened on...
Yeah, he is a weird abusive freak. Yeah, I can tell. Time travel is real based. It's 18 months of hardship until we get the 1950s economy back. Yeah, meaning we're going to lose all of the wealth that we've built up since the 1950s. I don't want the economy of the 1950s. I want the economy of 2024, where we were all fucking way more wealthy than we were in the 1950s. You realize that the 1950s economy was not as good as the economy that we have now, right? By any metric. Literally, by any metric. You just like the 1950s because people say that the 1950s are something that we should aspire to. Oh yeah, the U.S. is going to lose all its wealth in 2 years. Okay, maybe I'm being a little bit hyperbolic, but the point stands.
Jobs, truck drivers, port workers, American consumers. So my question for you is, how is that a good thing?
Well, I think the point that the president makes with his tariffs is that America has a $1.2 trillion trade deficit. That means other people are selling us goods that more than we are selling.
Who gives a single flying fuck? Not me. Just because we buy more, just because we're rich enough to where we can buy enough shit from other people means that we should feel bad about that and stop trading with those people? Fuck no. The reason why we have a trade deficit is because we are rich enough to buy more shit from other people than they are able to buy from us. That's just the truth of it. There's a reason why we have a trade deficit with places like Vietnam. It's because they are all poor people who are working in factories, which is better than them working in the fucking fields and starving to death, right? So they now have factories and shit, and they're selling shit to us, earning 20 cents per day if they're lucky. They can't buy American-made goods because American-made goods are like Boeing 757s. Because the stuff that we make in the United States, that we specialize in the United States, is just better. They can't afford shit from us. That's why we have trade deficits with the rest of the world. Exactly. Trade deficit is not going to change. Because we're not going to start, unless we want to start making the shit like plastic 2-cent useless garbage consumer goods that we buy from everyone else. And yeah, maybe we shouldn't buy as much of that. But guess what? You're the ones buying it. Nobody's forcing you to buy it. All the cheap consumer goods that you say, oh, well, we can live without that. You could choose not to buy those things. Like any of the hundreds of thousands of different foodstuffs we grow and raise? Yeah, actually. You can just choose to eat American-grown food. And most of the food that you eat is American-grown anyway. But outside of the stuff that we just can't grow here, like most of the stuff that you buy at the grocery store is grown in the United States. Outside of, maybe there's like some stuff with Canada that we do some trade with. So like maybe if you're really like close to the border with Canada, you'll get some dairy products from them maybe. I don't know. If we bring back manufacturing, Elon's robots at 30,000 each will do the work. Well, that's one issue. Yeah. No, that's an example of what we'd export to Vietnam. Oh, like any of the hundreds, thousands of different foodstuffs we grow or raise. Well, I don't know if they need that. Are they not buying our food because they need it, but they're trying to protect their industry? Or do they produce enough food themselves? Not everyone has to buy from us. It's fine if we have a trade deficit with Vietnam, actually.
Selling them. And that's just not balanced. It's not fair. We're losing $1.2 trillion a year, of which direct...
Siamese Stormtrooper, if you want to jump into the call, here's a Discord link right there. If anyone says or has an issue with anything that I'm saying, you can always jump into the Discord. I have it open right now, and so I can see if someone jumps into the waiting room. Jump into a call with me. Tell me where I'm saying that's wrong. I like to be correct. If I'm saying something that's wrong, correct me.
Directly and indirectly to China, that's about $1 trillion. China sells goods to Vietnam. Vietnam repackages them and sells them to us. So the idea is the president wants balanced and fair trade. And
wait, that's not even an unfair trade practice. It would still be, and still it would be a Chinese good in that case. American food sucks? Hey, you shut your fucking mouth, okay? Leave my burgers alone. You're forgetting that in the 1950s, one man could afford a 5,000 square foot colonial home and 3 cars, working 30 hours a week at the car factory. I've seen TV land shows. That's true. They could also afford to take 14 vacations a year to Disney World.
Tariffs are the tool to create balanced and fair trade. It's just unsustainable for $1.2 trillion to be exported to the rest of the world. Meaning our money is going to the rest of the world. It's building them up. And
our money going to the rest of the world doesn't matter, because if it's American dollars, that means that they have to spend what other countries, how many other countries, chat, tell me right now, how many other countries recognize the US dollar as their form of currency? There's like one micronation in Africa. So if we spend money and we send money to Vietnam, and that company takes that money, now they have $100,000 worth of American dollars. Can they spend that in Vietnam? No. So they have to spend it in the United States. That money finds its way back to the United States in the form of investment. Or, sorry, let me be ultra clear. They either send that money back to the United States in the form of investment, or they change the currency back to their home country, to be clear, because obviously, yeah. Letnick is a mental midget. True. Just like Mexico can use our money. I mean, like in the same way that I'm talking about, like they have to convert them from American dollars to pesos, and that would mean that they have to go to a bank, or they have to go to some money changing service, and that money changing service probably gets its money by investing.
And over time, it's taken us down, and the president's here to fix it. So that's what he's trying to do with his tariffs.
Break something and then fix what you broke. And it's like not even the repair isn't as good as what we had before.
And I understand what you're talking about with regard to sort of economic.
Okay, hold on. I'm playing like 2 seconds and then I'm responding, and then I'm playing 2 seconds and then okay, this is why I invited you onto voice, so that I can either respond to the video or I can have a conversation, because it's impossible to do both. No, they aren't converting the whole transaction. No, I'm not either. I'm not being clear, or you're not listening to what I'm saying, because obviously they're not converting the whole transaction to, like, are you saying you think what I'm saying is they're buying American goods in US dollars and then immediately converting? I don't know what you think I'm saying. Actually, at this point, I'm confused what you think I'm saying. So all of Europe uses our dollar. No, it's the reserve currency, but they don't go to the store and pay in American dollars. They have to exchange the American dollars for euros to go to the store. Yes. Yeah. I'm saying international. Yeah. We're saying the same thing, Siamese Stormtrooper. I think that we're arguing for no reason, or I'm arguing with you and you might not be arguing with me. So my bad.
Policy, but there's economic policy, and then there's how people in the United States actually feel and the immediate effect on them. So just to be clear, are you saying that ultimately fixing what the president sees as a problem, which you just described, is going to mean that the American people, whether they work at a port or whether they're truck drivers or whether they're consumers, they're just going to have to suffer in the short term, maybe even longer?
No. Let's take a look at the UK.
They live in both worlds on this. Like, they simultaneously say, oh, well, I'm not saying that you're going to have to suffer. There's not going to be any suffering associated. We're having our economy is great. Everything is booming. But then they also say, they're speaking out both sides of their mouth. They're saying the economy is booming. The economy is great. The stock market is great there. And then they're also saying, oh, they're getting a little yippy. Okay, yeah, no, we're going to have some short-term pain. Oh, well, maybe they'll have 3 Barbie dolls instead of 30 Barbie dolls this Christmas. Maybe they'll have 5 pencils instead of 250 pencils, which, by the way, that one specifically just rubs me such the fucking wrong way, because teachers have to buy their students school supplies because their students often are too poor to buy school supplies. And like in places like Texas, a place that I just moved out of, they stopped giving tax credits to teachers who provide school supplies to their students. So the state isn't even assisting teachers to buy pencils for their students. The children aren't getting 250 pencils, okay? They're not getting 5 pencils, okay? So shut the fuck up with that one, Trump. That one actually pisses me the fuck off, because kids do deserve and do need more than 5 pencils. And the fact that we're using that as a metric is just, parents should get jobs. You should find a rope. Damn. Oh, sorry. 1 second. All right, parents should get jobs. Yeah, that guy's gone forever. Teachers spend way too much of their own money to help their students. Yeah, I know. My entire family are teachers. Yes, I know. What y'all don't understand, a privilege is not a right. Yeah, I know. We're not entitled to buy luxury bags, dolls, and anything that isn't a life necessity. Democrats sound spoiled. Wiggy DH Bastion. I'm sorry. I don't know how to. I want to be mad at you, okay? So I want to start my statement off by I'm trying to be a less angry person every single day, okay? Genuinely. A privilege is not a right. We are not entitled to buy luxury bags, dolls, or anything that isn't a life necessity. What have people been screaming at politicians, at the media, at everyone that could listen for the past my entire existence? That wages have stagnated, that the cost of living has increased, that everyone is living paycheck to paycheck, that we, like, American citizens can't afford a 2% increase on their taxes, or something that would be the equivalent of a 2% increase on their taxes. But now all of a sudden, when Donald Trump does something that is verifiably, I'm sorry, by any metric, fucking retarded, like brain dribbling out of his nose because it's liquefied levels of just unhinged, right? Like this is something that has been directly done to us when it comes to policy. And now all of a sudden we're supposed to talk about not buying luxury bags, dolls, or anything that's not a life necessity when Republicans have freaked the fuck out the second that anyone says anything about tightening belts. It was actual political suicide. I just want you guys to know this. Pre-Trump, to say anything about, oh, well, this policy might hurt for a short time, but in the long term, it's going to be really good. That's been a meme in American politics for longer than I've been alive, that we can't get anything long-term done that would be good for everyone because it would hurt in the short term. So excuse me when I feel a little bit indignant when people say we're not entitled, like, privilege is not a right. We might be privileged to be able, yeah, we are privileged. We live in the greatest fucking country that God has ever graced Earth with. We are the most powerful military, the strongest, largest economy, the most ubiquitous culture that we export to everyone else. Everyone dreams of being us. Everyone dreams of being us. Because we're so rich and we're so powerful. But now we need to start talking about, oh, well, we can't do this or we can't do that. We can't afford to do this. We can't afford to do that. Meanwhile, our economy is fucking exploding. Meanwhile, the average median wage, the typical wage in America is increasing and outpacing CPI. All of these stats that everyone has been telling me my entire life, that the decline of the middle class has coincided with the decline of manufacturing jobs in the United States, when it turns out that stat is completely fucking false. I'm a little bit indignant. At our worst, we are still doing way better than 90% of the world, and guess what? It always goes back up. Just chill. No, fuck that. I'm not going to chill while someone comes into my country that I fucking love, that I have learned to love, that I fucking hated my country for a good chunk of my life because I was a retarded fucking child. But then I grew the fuck up. I learned a little bit something about the economy. I learned a little bit about something with our political system. I learned a little bit about civics. And now I fucking love my country. And as soon as I start loving my country and I move to DC so that I can start, life as a public servant, some retard gets elected into office and starts literally shitting on every single part of America that is worth defending. Like there's an argument for every single thing that they say that they're trying to do, but there is no argument for what they are actually doing. And that is what is so absolutely fucking mind-boggling, is the chasm between what they say they're doing, what you guys perceive that they're doing, and what they are actually doing. Neither Trump nor Kamala nor Biden were good picks, but yeah, you choose, even if you think that, which I would be a little bit, I might change the language there a little bit, but you choose the least bad of all the options, You choose the least bad of the options. And I don't think I'd be complaining like this if Kamala was in charge or if Biden was in charge again, Said hi, how's it going, Lord Zoe? By the way, if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, like the stream. I don't like doing these call to action, and I don't like doing the, hey, you guys should follow my stream. So I'm going to do that right now. Follow, like the stream, blah, blah, blah. That's me. I'm not good at marketing. Okay. This is coming from a Polish person. Trump is the least bad option in my eyes, respectfully. Listen, there are some nationalities, some foreigners who I could possibly see that perspective. If you're Polish, I could see that perspective. You're wrong. You're very wrong. But you're very wrong. Okay, I really want to watch. I see more people are coming in and more people are trying to pick fights with me over the things I'm saying. Listen, I love arguing with chat, but at a certain point, I have to watch the video and I have to do my content. However, if you guys want to, you are welcome to join the Discord. You can jump into the voice channel and then you can talk to me one-on-one. You can tell me what I've said that's wrong. I'm willing to change my opinion on stream right here, right in front of you. If you tell me what I've said that is wrong, if you can prove to me what I've said is wrong. So I'm going to keep watching the video. I'm going to keep my eye on the Discord. If someone joins the voice channel to debate me on something, I will join into a call and I will drag them in. But I can't spend literally all night, watching 2 seconds of a video and then spending 5 minutes responding to chat. John Dozier, I agree with you, but the problem is that dream is being taken from people right now because Trump is killing our economy. You're an idiot. Tell me why I'm wrong, Rain.
We did we announced on Thursday, right? We opened the opportunity for Americans to export to the United Kingdom $5 billion more than they've ever had the right before. You had beef, ethanol, row crops, vegetables, fruits, cereals, sodas, machinery. I mean, just the list goes on and on.
For
so
what?
The idea for the president is,
hold on, let me rewind a little bit
uh,
here and catch up. Cheaper energy and closed borders. You're an idiot. I said, what did I say that was wrong? Cheaper energy and closed borders. But I didn't talk about energy at all, and I didn't talk about borders at all. So can you tell me what I said that was wrong? Oh, chat is arguing with themselves. Okay, got it.
UK deal we did we announced on Thursday, right? We opened the opportunity for Americans to export to the United Kingdom.
Whether they're truck drivers or whether they're consumers, they're just going to have to suffer in the short term, maybe even longer?
No. Let's take a look at the UK deal we did we announced on Thursday, right?
Oh, that's what he's talking about. Yeah, the deal that wasn't actually a deal, the deal that was actually the framework for what a deal in the future could possibly look like.
We opened the opportunity for Americans to export to the United Kingdom $5 billion more.
We already had a trade surplus with the United Kingdom. We had a trade surplus of several $1 billion. What was our trade surplus with the UK? Trade surplus UK. $95 billion trade surplus. What the fuck? And we're still tariffing them. And we're presenting this framework of a deal as an actual deal when nothing has changed. No one right now is able to, he says, listen to what he's saying, okay? Keep in mind, no deal has actually been passed. So if someone wants to actually ship any of these things to the UK right now, they're not going to have the deal that they think they're going to have.
Thursday, right? We opened the opportunity for Americans to export to the United Kingdom $5 billion more than they've ever had the right before. You had beef.
$95 billion already.
Ethanol, row crops, vegetables, fruits, cereals, sodas, machinery. I mean, just the list goes on and on. So the idea for the president is, look, we published our rates on Liberation Day. Negotiate with us, bring those rates down by opening your markets to Americans who can export. So what's going to happen is we're going to have imports. Of course, our ports, we are the consumer of the world. I mean,
but you've tariffed. What the fuck? I don't get it. What do you mean? Of course we're going to have full ports. Of course we're the consumers of the world. Then why are you mad that we have a trade deficit? A trade deficit means that you buy more than you sell. That's all it means. 177,000 jobs added, far exceeding the 130 jobs projected. I'm going to look up this number. Where are you getting 177,000 jobs added? Since when? 177,000 jobs added. I'll put that into Google. America wants to be more self-reliant. Okay. So we can still do industrial policy. We can still do protectionist policy without shooting ourselves in the balls multiple times with an AK-47 while telling everyone else that we're hurting them. Maybe we could do that. Maybe we could, like, I don't know, incentivize rather than try to disincentivize. Offer way more carrots than the fucking, it's not even a stick, it's a fucking nuclear bomb that we dropped. We're not even threatening the stick. We just dropped the nuke on everyone, and then we said, okay, now don't do anything back to us, and maybe we can make a deal. Like, it's like, dude, and we're not making any friends. We're losing friends, which means we're going to have worse trade deals, which means we're going to have a worse economy. It's all intentional to distract from his grifting Americans to lower taxes and get paid for it in back channels. I think that they're completely separate. I think that I think that every single thing that he's doing, John, is just the whim of some other random person in his administration. Lutnick and Besant are over here trying to get the tariffs taken off. Navarro is trying to get more tariffs put on. This person wants there to be a crypto scam. This person wants the SEC to be gutted. You know, it's like they all have their own motivations, and they're all trying to get him to make declarations on them as quickly as possible before he completely goes senile or he like keels over from eating too much fucking KFC. Okay, sorry. Let me look at that 177,000 jobs. In April 20, do I still have a cup of water in here? Hold on. I don't have a cup of water. Here, let me read this and then I'll get a cup of water. In April 2025, the U.S. economy added 177,000 jobs, exceeding analyst expectations. When did this number get released? Is this March's numbers or April's numbers? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking right now is April. Last month was April. It's the beginning of the month. Give me a second to recalibrate my brain. Okay. How do we have April numbers already? Or is it... Hiring fell slightly from a revised 185,000 in March. Okay, so it wasn't as high as you said. It dropped. Hi, Sondsol. Hi, Econo Boy. How are you doing? I was thinking about messaging you about something, not stream related. I can't remember what it was. How are you doing, my man? Okay, let me catch back up. I think it's both. It's all hustling nonstop. Is he joking on people's diet? No. Remember when people were skeptical of Biden's numbers? I'm not skeptical of these numbers. I just wonder why they're up like this. Because I've also seen, for as many people have said that there have been jobs added, I've seen as many stories of I can't think of fucking words today. Someone help me with the word. The place where you build things. The shop, the big building. Factories. Fuck me. Jesus Christ. I can't think of words today. Jesus. Okay. For every report that I've heard from specifically only like hardcore MAGA people that jobs reports are good, I've seen as many headlines of factories laying people off, either short term or permanently. Richo, I think your analysis is real and rational. Well, I appreciate it. I'm not a genius, okay? I know that I'm not a genius, but I'm informed enough to know what's bullshit, what's like something that I just disagree with, and what's something that's just actually stupid, something that's just bad policy. Like, I'm smart enough for that, and I'm self-aware enough to recognize what biases I have. Yeah, I think that Trump is a retard, both because of the retarded things he does and because I fucking hate him. But I can recognize where one ends and the other begins. 177,000 jobs. King's Verity. I literally have it up on the screen right in front of you. I'm saying, yes, I agree with you. The 177 jobs is there. But you said it was a revised 185,000 in March. The unemployment rate remained at a low 4.2%. So it's about the same, a little bit lower than what was projected. You're so animated. I could be way more animated. I felt like I wasn't playing it up enough. Sondsol just can't stand that Trump is actually saving the economy. Oh, well, you know what? Honestly, now that I realize that we have an expert economist in chat, if you want to jump into the Discord and inform me why there might be a decent jobs report, Econoboy, I would certainly take your expert punditry, assuming you're free, of course. Looks like you should clean your room. Wait, what are you talking about? Hold on. I take exception to that. Hold the fuck up. Let me see here. Okay. This room was actually freshly cleaned just now. Fuck you guys. Look at this. This is a nice room. The only thing that's dirty is I have my clean clothes that I'm going to fold after stream. Fuck you guys. All right? I know what I'm about. That's right, schoolboy. Take it back. Fucking loser. Okay. 1 second. All right. Mr. Econoboy. Mr. Econoboy, can you hear me?
Hey, what's up, man?
How's it going?
Going all right. I had my Tim Pool appearance and been doing live and learn, so been going all right.
Yeah, I saw that you had been on Tim Pool. I don't remember if I watched that on stream or if I watched that off stream. Wait, hold on. I might be missing. Wait, did you just have something with Tim Pool?
It was a week and a half ago, I think.
Okay, yeah, I saw that. Like, I think I might have watched it on stream, but I don't remember too much about it. Sorry.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I've
any
seen-
individual Tim Pool
Yeah.
performance isn't too memorable. He does so much content, honestly. But it was fun.
So, I've seen that you've been doing a lot of the like live and learn. Are you doing content creation full time right now?
No, not full time. It's still just a hobby for me. I got into writing Substacks, and I've been so busy at home that I haven't had time to write a lot lately. But got some cool, got some articles in the what do you call it in the draft
chamber?
phase. So I've
Gotcha.
been, I don't know, I've been writing what I think to be pretty like interesting articles, but obviously it's for a very niche audience. So it's always just been a little fun hobby for me.
Gotcha. So, educate me. We have these tariffs. They're obviously bad for the economy. They're not helping us. They're not making items cheaper. They're making things more expensive. How did we add 177,000 jobs to the economy, despite all of the layoffs that I've seen from all these factories and stuff?
Yeah. We got to keep in mind a couple of things. So, number one, a lot of the tariffs were just announced in April, right? So, a lot of the tariffs were announced in April, and they weren't announced all like in the beginning of the month. Like, I think that whatever Liberation Day or whatever I can't
Yeah.
remember what day of the month that was, but
It was April
um,
2nd, because if they did it on April 1st, no one would believe it was real.
nobody would believe them. Yeah. So those were all announced in April, but then they were rolled, like a lot of them were rolled back, and they were like transitioned to be much more focused on China. And there was like the universal steel and aluminum tariffs and the car part tariffs, but then there were exceptions announced. So um, part of the reason why you'll see a decent jobs report is because a lot of companies, number one, just on the ground saw no impact from the tariffs because they weren't actually implemented in April, and they weren't implemented to their fullest degree as announced on Liberation Day, right?
Hmm.
And so that's number one. And then number two, a lot of business leaders literally just don't think that the tariffs will
Or gonna
be
last.
permanent. Yeah. Like a lot of business leaders did two things, right? They have an expectation that the tariffs are going to go away within maybe 3 to 9 months or something like that. Or at the very least, there will be substantial relief. And then the second thing is one thing that they actually did was they front ran the tariffs, right? So they imported, several months, years worth of shit. It depends on the business, obviously, but you saw just a crazily unprecedented amount of imports in the first quarter because everyone was trying to get ahead of the tariffs. So a lot of businesses in their head, it's like, well, we have enough inventory to kind of last for when we think that the tariff relief will come. And so, and also the tariffs didn't actually take effect in the bulk of April. So that's why you might see a good jobs report in April. You might see a good jobs report in May and in June, right? Because of all that front running. So it's really just going to depend on
How long they keep them on.
Yeah, it's going to depend on how long they keep them on, how many exceptions end up getting. Because it seems like to get an exception, you just have to call Trump and be like, Trump, I'll suck your dick. Like, please just give me an exception for my specific company. And Trump is like, yeah, sure, okay, fine, I'll just do it. Because that's what happened with a lot of the car tariffs.
Yeah.
And I think, like, Tim Apple, as he's known, he got Trump on the phone and he was like, look, you can't just tariff all the consumer electronics. Like, an iPhone's going to be twice as expensive if you do that. And so then there was this consumer electronics exception.
Our base
with
captains
Chinese
of industry coming through to save us from the tariffs on our precious, precious iPhones.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously they don't want, I mean, they don't want to have to charge twice as much for an iPhone, right? Like it would hurt their sales a lot. So,
Yeah.
they don't want to compete like on those grounds. So, that's why you'll probably see at least decent enough jobs reports, I would suspect, from maybe until July or August. And then it'll be all down to what the actual conditions are. I mean, if in July and August, Trump is like, there's just like no sign at all of a deal. And everything that's been announced has been so sort of insubstantial. Like it was kind of like with the UK deal.
Mm.
If Trump is like, we got this big deal with China, and like the deal is like, oh, this only affects like a few $1 billion worth of goods or something, like it's nothing, then maybe
yeah,
you'll
I just
start to
heard
see
Lutnick say
businesses.
$5 billion of being able to sell like of more, and this is the preliminary framework of what a deal might look like, and it's just 9 or 5 or 9 billion more. I can't remember what he said. That's it, and we already had a nearly $100 billion trade surplus with the UK. So like, what is this getting us like
Yep.
at all?
Well, I mean, it's clear that China just doesn't. China ultimately just does not have to give that much of a shit about this, right? Like, obviously, it's not good for the Chinese economy that this is happening, but also, like, I heard a funny clip of I can't remember if it was like a Chinese ambassador or some sort of member of the Chinese government. He was talking to a British lady, maybe he was on the BBC or something, and she was like, but this is so bad, like it affects such a large part of the Chinese economy. And he's like, yeah, we don't care. Okay. China has been around for 5,000 years, and we're going to be around for another 5,000 years. Most of that time, America didn't even exist. Right.
Mhm.
and obviously the Chinese political system I
That's what
mean,
I was saying earlier. I had brought this exact same thing up. Like,
yeah,
can China outlast us? Because I've
of
heard
course.
all sorts of things about China's economy being on the brink, or it having so many frailties to it, the housing market and stuff like this. So like I've heard about all of that. Will this be the thing that could tip it over? It's like at the end of the day, this is going to probably not be something that cripples either the United States
Yeah.
or China, but who can withstand pain more before something has to change? And it's going to be China, because they have a dictatorship and we have a democracy. And when you have a democracy, whoever's in charge, who either made the decision or just happens to be the poor fucking dude who was in office when the bad thing happened, that person loses their job.
Well, they also have at this point their system is so entrenched that it kind of recreates itself at this point, right? Where like Chinese people just don't have an extremely robust culture of like
Yeah.
protesting against the government or,
The
being
expectations culturally
outraged.
of what the government ought do, or what or even what the people should endure for the government, is going to be significantly different from, especially like
Yeah, that's right. Like
Eastern cultures
essentially
compared to Western.
Chinese people are a lot less sensitive to uh essentially bad things happening in that sense. Like they're not going to go out and start like firebombing government. Well, I'm sorry. Actually, that's not true.
That's not
I've
necessarily
heard some
true.
people Yeah, I've heard some people say like, well, China doesn't have a culture of protesting, but if it gets bad enough, just like acts of violence will start to occur. But I mean, the reality is for people who say that, you know, oh, the Chinese economy is going to like collapse because of this happening. I mean, I don't know, really? Like I just don't I just don't see it happening. Like I mean, what do we mean by collapse, and like do we really expect that they won't be able to last into the long future, at least like past Trump? Like they only have to make it out the next 3.5 years or whatever, and then you'll probably have the next president, willing to just be like, look, okay, can we just take away these tariffs and you take away your reciprocal tariffs, and then we're just like back to where we started, and like everyone like why wouldn't the
Yeah,
next president
I
just do
figured
that?
that's probably where we're headed. Is like all of our allies are just saying, let's get through these 4 years. Let's see if we can do it, assuming that the Americans don't actually get rid of their entire system of governance. We can probably still be friends with them, right? Worst case scenario, Europe is now the leader of the world. I guess that has to be
Well,
the
yeah, a lot
conversations
of
that are
I mean,
going on right now, because
Trump is a
there's
very simple person. Like, I mean, all you have to do, like, if I was like the president of France or something, all I would be doing is I'd be like, look, we just have to we only have to meet with this guy like twice a year. And when we meet with him, we're just going to schmooze him. We're going to be nice to him. We're going to say how great he's doing. Um, maybe we'll sign a little trade deal here and
we'll
there.
bring in
Like,
some
it's
people from Italy, some people from France. Have you seen how
right.
weird he
Like,
is
it's
about their
just,
accents?
yeah, like, it's just not that, it's just not that big of a deal
Yeah.
for, these countries to just kind of wade through the bullshit over the next 3.5 years. Like, it's a bigger deal domestically because we have to deal with all the domestic policy. But I mean, if you think about just like of the policy that the president does, and then you bisect that between foreign and domestic policy. Well, obviously, like 80-90% of it is going to be domestic policy. But then if you think about it from a foreign country's perspective, well, the foreign policy is split between like hundreds of different countries and conflicts and regions in the world, right? So it's like
Mm.
you're not going to attract extreme ire from the U.S. president. And even if you are like China just clearly has the capacity within itself to, not really care exactly how much ire they're getting from the president, right? So I don't know. I don't really think. I just don't really expect much to be made in terms of a trade deal. I mean, China didn't bend in the first, trade war, and I don't think they'll bend in the second one either. I mean, I think your best case scenario is like Trump basically realizes by the end of summer that nobody is going to actually bend to his
Yeah.
will,
And
and
that's
he'll just
the
say, let's get rid of the tariffs. Let's get rid of the reciprocal tariffs, and we'll just go back to where we were before
Well,
I started.
that's the thing that I wonder is when it comes to, nations like, when we look at places like the UK is the exact first nation that I would expect to try and give Trump some kind of easy off ramp, like this is a deal. Yeah, we have a deal. You can announce this framework of a deal because it's all nice and everything is mostly exactly the same, but you can send some more of your beef over here or something. Yeah, that's cool. China doesn't have the incentive to make Trump look good. China doesn't have the incentive to make America look good. They don't have the incentive to give the off ramp for the domestic situation, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know if they make a deal or if like I don't know what the end of it looks like is the thing,
I mean, I think most likely, I don't know. I'm kind of stuck between we see some extremely marginal deal where the reciprocal tariffs go away and maybe we see like some extra tariff de-escalation, like maybe all the agricultural tariffs that are hung over from Trump's first term like go away or something, and you can cut maybe 40 or 50 billion dollars out of agricultural subsidies after that, which would be nice, I guess. But again, that's just Trump cleaning up his mess from the first term. I mean, we're still not actually getting a better situation on net, if Trump had never been president. And but then it ranges from that all the way to maybe the worst case scenario, which is like China basically is unwilling to do essentially anything, and Trump is really stubborn about it, and so he keeps all the tariffs on, and maybe he does even more tariffs. I mean, I think the difficulty is it was similar to when Biden had announced like we're gonna tariff up to 200%, and China literally was like, yeah, we just don't care at this point because you're basically just embargoing all the goods at this point.
Yeah,
like once you get
no one's going to pay 125% tariff.
right,
no
like,
one's going to pay a 200% tariff.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's like you can't just raise tariffs infinitely, dumbass. Like nobody's buying it at this point because you've made everything like twice as expensive. So, there's an upper limit, obviously, on what you can even do. I mean, effectively, all the 145% tariff goods are just like, obviously not that they're not important.
The most important, they're probably the most important inputs into our economy that are being tariffed and still being purchased at that level. So it's probably shit that's super fucking expensive and super important to the last part of assembly here in the United States. That's what I would make a guess at, because I don't think, like, in terms of consumer goods, anyone's buying that. People are probably sourcing all materials from other places as much as they can. So we probably are still trading with China. It's probably just like places probably make the worst profit margins too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I think people might be overplaying. I think people might be overplaying. Like you'll see some liberal commentators that are like, "We're going to see all these shortages." And it's like, I don't know. I think I don't think you're going to go into a Walmart and see like half the shelves empty. Right? Like probably not. But
well, that's what I'm hearing from basically everyone right now is what I was I thought that what we're going to be seeing is product shortages, not like half of the shelves empty, I wouldn't think, but like a good amount. Is that not right?
It'll be No, I think it'll be noticeable, but I think people are imagining like fucking like Great Depression, like World War II level rationing happening, and it's like, no, like I don't think it'll be that bad.
Okay, when I've heard it, I haven't heard it presented like that catastrophically. Maybe there's people who have been that catastrophic. I mean, I imagine there are people that are overplaying it like that, but I haven't heard someone talk like that crazy about it.
Yeah, but we'll see. I think it's just. I think one of the things about one of the things about these tariffs that is so confusing for a lot of other countries is like, are they actually getting implemented? like
Yeah.
how are they getting implemented? When are they getting implemented? What are the exceptions, right? And we're only kind of starting to just now see that and how they're getting implemented. So we'll see, I guess, we'll see, I guess, ultimately what it ends up looking like over the next month or two. But yeah, I think if there's no considerable news on a trade deal by midsummer, end of summer, I mean, there's just one struggle that businesses have is there's no telling what Trump will do, because you could imagine both scenarios, right? Where it's like one scenario, Trump just says, all right, we're just going to get rid of these tariffs, and then China will get rid of their reciprocal tariffs. But then another scenario where it's like Trump is just, he's not running for re-election in theory, and he doesn't really have to necessarily care about basically any of the impact of what he does.
And
So,
he's, ancient already, so he doesn't have to worry about, the next 5 years of his life being too difficult.
yeah, I mean, so it's like this guy's just living the last 10 years of his life or something, just having fun, basically. And, what does he care really if people are, pissed off at him? Like, I mean, ultimately, if he's sitting at a 35% approval rating, he's still going to have like an 85% approval rating with Republicans, right? And so he doesn't really, like, he'll still be able to have all of his rallies and the Republicans will cheer for him and stuff. So, it's hard to say, like what, I don't know. It's very hard to say what he'll actually end up doing. I mean, he backed off of the Canadian and like Mexico tariffs in large part. So I mean, maybe he'll.
No,
I
he
don't know
didn't
why he
back
did
off
that,
of those. They
honestly.
had to force him off of them, right? Didn't they end the emergency that kept the tariffs on Canada?
I don't
Or
know
or
what
am
you're
I?
referring to.
1 second. Canada tariffs emergency vote. Senate rebukes Trump's tariffs on Canada. Senate veto.
I mean, the only thing I
Yeah, go ahead.
the only thing I heard of was a bill by poser Ron Paul about basically getting rid of the president's unilateral authority to impose tariffs, and it did get passed, but it's like, well, it got passed without a veto-proof majority. Like Rand Paul is just a complete poser. He never actually stands up to Trump.
I know.
So it's like, I don't know. I find all these it's like I think the only real one is Thomas Massey. He's like the only one that I can think right now who's like actually just has this like Thomas Massey is a complete dumbass when it comes to how the government should run, just to be clear, but he's genuinely a dumbass. Like, he's just like, nope, I believe we should not have any welfare, and I think we should cut all these spending programs, and like the stream.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Did I? Oh, fuck. I'm sorry. I pressed the wrong mute button. I interrupted you. I didn't. I thought I pressed the Discord.
Unbelievable.
Sorry. I was trying to let you continue and not interrupt you. I was trying to mute myself on Discord and tell them. I interrupted you and didn't tell them.
Damn.
Hey, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, like the stream. There's 56 of you guys watching. Only 23 likes. Double tap the screen. Sorry. Anyway, continue. What are you saying?
I get it. No, I mean, I think Thomas Massey is probably the only Republican that I can see who seems to have genuinely stood up to Trump and all of his bullshit. Because, you'll see Republicans do this where it's like, I'm against Donald Trump. I've been given permission in a vote where it doesn't actually matter how I vote to do a thing that looks like I'm standing up to Trump.
I've been given permission. I already know that this vote will fail. They've already told me that I don't have the votes, but they've given me permission to do. Yeah. All the fucking political.
It's just all
theater.
bullshit. Yeah, it's just complete bullshit. So I mean, I don't know. I don't trust any. I think any Republican in office currently, just like every single one of them, should be like elected out of office. Like, oh my god, dude.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a single one that has either a spine or the brains to have the position that they have. It's actually disgusting. I'm going through. I'm starting to read books by statesmen. Right. I'm starting to, really dive into the role of living that DC life and becoming a patriot. Right. And it's like I look at the the qualities of what it means to be a statesman and the people who are venerated all over the city. And it's like, Jesus Christ, they're going to have to try to find something smart that Trump said. They're going to have to try to find something worth putting on a fucking placard that came out of Trump's mouth. And it's going to be the worst fucking job in the entire world.
I mean, like, I just don't.
We don't
Look, I
have
just don't
anyone
think-
that actually looks at America, has a vision for it, and wants to enact that vision. I feel like we have the Democrats and the Republicans. The Republicans are the party of sucking Trump dry until every last possible spermoid has left his body to be preserved forever in the Smithsonian. That's the Republican Party. And then the Democrat Party is just, we're the party that likes universal health care and taxes. Like, I don't feel like there's a strong politician out there, with the exception of maybe Pete Buttigieg. Like, he's the only person I've heard say anything that I liked the content of and the confidence he said it with, you know?
We'll see. I mean, Democrats, Republicans are, I think most Republican politicians have an extremely poor understanding of policy. They're pretty much not right on any single issue. They're Republicans, obviously, but then I think they're also extremely spineless as well. It's almost like I can respect sort of a well-educated guy who I just find to be mistaken on several issues, but I can't respect somebody who I feel like is like look at like Dan Crenshaw. It's like, dude, Dan, I know that you know better. Like, I know that you're not stupid enough to think that what's going on is perfectly okay. I know you're not dumb enough to think that Trump is like actually a good president, but you pretend that that's the case because you are a coward, right? Like, that's what this is.
That's something that's been bothering me so much is the, I think that I've had like a total like depressive episode over the total misalignment I have with my perception of how people are and how people have been acting, just like how much cruelty they're willing to co-sign, right? And then you look at all these conservatives that we have talked to who are, generally good people, but then they are sitting there co-signing or defending or finding some excuse for some of the cruelty here.
Well, I mean, like, I was talking to Rob Noor, like, maybe a couple months ago or something like that, and we were talking about immigration or whatever, and I was saying, I don't even remember exactly, but I was saying something along the lines of, look, I think that Trump's immigration policy is just really cruel, right? It ends up, it does end up having a cost of human lives and suffering, and there's human rights violations that I would say, and this and that. I mean, look at what he did in his first term.
In addition to any of the other things,
Yeah, I was like, look at what he did in this first term with the separation of the children or whatever, and Rob's was just like, and I, that's right, yeah, you Democrats, you guys are gonna parade around, pictures of children crying when they're taken from their parents, and it's like.
Yeah,
well,
we
Rob,
are.
Yeah, because like that's bad.
Yeah, it's not
that's evil. Like, what do you? It's like you guys are. Oh yeah, like, sure. It's easy to show pictures of all these Jews in camps, but what do someone's got to pave the highways, and it's like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, you're crazy. Like, I don't know. Like,
so
it seems perfectly reasonable to do those things.
Exactly.
Right?
So I had this revelation, and it's not like it wasn't like.
You found God.
Yeah, exactly. It was a religious expose. I saw God, and I immediately knew that I wanted to go meet him. And I tried to buy a gun, but thank God that they have. Sorry, I'm taking the joke way too far. So I was watching Pisco debate Rob before their follow up about the venue versus whatever distinction, and there was a part specifically that stuck out to me, and I saw through the Matrix. They were talking about Abrego Garcia and how it's fucked up, and like, should Trump bring him back? And
seems
somewhere along the line of the conversation, they get onto something that happened to Trump with the FISA warrants and the illegal spying that
Yeah.
happened.
Carter
And
Page.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it's always that with Rob Noor. And
Course, yeah.
PCO says, like, yeah, I said a million times that was regrettable, that was bad, and we should not allow that to happen. That should be something that, he said it's regrettable, right? I condemn
Yeah.
that. I don't co-sign it. And then Rob says, oh, well, then I think that it would be regrettable if they did this, but it's too late. It happened in the past, so we can't bring any of these people back. Oh man, that sucks. Yeah, I 100%. And it's obviously not a unique revelation, but it was just such a
Right.
pure distillation of they assume and have assumed that everything that we argue for is in bad faith. They don't think
That's right. Yeah.
that anything we argue, we actually believe. So they think that they have full license to do the same for their side.
Yeah.
And
Well, like I
that's,
remember when I was talking to Rob Noor, he said he was making what he considers to be the not Nazi version of the Great Replacement argument, where
I heard him talk about that very recently, or was this something that happened
Yeah.
very recently?
No, I haven't talked. I kind of stopped talking to Rob.
I
but
did too.
He,
But
this
he
was like
recently
a couple
he
of months
gave
ago. But
like last week he gave a version of it, and it was like 1-to-1 with the Groypers. It was not different in any way, shape, or form.
yeah, because he was basically saying, like, at least to me, what he was saying was, he was like, look, he was like, look, the all these undocumented immigrants, you guys just want to bring these guys in, and they're going to vote for Democrats when they become citizens or whatever. And I was like, I think one of the points that I made was, I was like, look, I've in the past, I've argued for humanitarian immigration policy that is not, it really doesn't clearly benefit my side politically. Like, one thing that I've argued for is that if you're a member of the Russian military and you go AWOL and you can make it to America, we should just give every one of those people a green card, because it's probably a good thing to give members of the Russian military an incentive to abandon their post, basically, and be productive in our country. And it's like, I'm sure the average Russian military member is like a pretty conservative person. Like, I don't know that these are a bunch of Democrats I'd be importing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I brought up the point of, like, it's not even clear to me that undocumented immigrants are like a very liberal group of people, right? Because look at how
They're not
Hispanic people. Right. I was
you,
like, look at,
you and I both know, since we've been around communities
we
before.
both, yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, look, I mean, I've grown up in these communities. Like, it's just not clear to me personally. And then when you look at the data, like, obviously undocumented immigrants aren't voting. If you're not a complete idiot, you understand that. And I brought up that point. I was like, look at how Hispanic people vote. Like, Hispanic people are not exactly voting in this like hyper democratic way. And he's like, oh, but you think undocumented people are vote, or would, in theory, would vote the exact same way as Hispanic people? And I'm like,
No.
well, I mean, Rob, these aren't like fundamentally different groups of people. Like, undocumented immigrants inhabit essentially the exact same communities
they
as
do.
documented immigrants. Like, they're in the exact same areas, right?
They're the uncles and the parents and
right.
the
Like, these are
cousins that come
very
over, too.
like it's not a perfect circle, but this is like a group with like 85% overlap or something, right? And he just was like, no, that's complete bullshit. And it's like, all right, dude, whatever. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Wait,
like,
does he really not believe that whatsoever?
Essentially, his argument is, like, even if you were to say that they do occupy the same parts of communities, his argument is that it is simply insane to think that an undocumented immigrant would be willing to vote for the kind of Republican Party that Rob wants, where they want to basically deport all these people. And I'm like, obviously now it's like we can look at news story after news story after news story after news story of like Hispanic advocacy groups and like Hispanic members of the community that were like, oh, I voted for Trump, and like, I don't know, I didn't think this and that, and like, I voted for Trump and I'm perfectly fine with all this. Like there's people who vote. I think Rob in his head has it where it's like, and I guess a lot of people have this in their head when they think about voting behavior. They think of voters as voting for relatively ideological reasons, even if it's only on single issues. But that's just so not like what is going on in the median voter's head. Like the median voter isn't even ideological at all in any consistent way.
Yeah.
Like the average median voter is like, oh, I think this is kind of a problem. I'll vote for them. Or
I mean,
like, how many
what's the
people do you
fucking
hear where
meme?
they're like,
There's
well, I
like
was
a,
gonna say,
a
like, how many
fucking
people do you
meme.
hear where it's like, oh, I vote for Democrats because my dad voted for Democrats and my whole family just votes for Democrats, so I vote for
Yeah.
Democrats. Like that's like 80% of people vote that way.
That's
You
super
know?
true. There's a fucking meme where it's like scientists showed this chimpanzee how the average voter arrives at their positions and it killed itself. Like everybody knows the average person is fucking stupid. Why do we have a democracy, Econoboy?
But it's really not. It's not that they're stupid. It's just I remember Jason.
They
There was
just
this
don't
guy
have
named Jason
they're
Brennan.
not interested in the same things, and so they just see things that is bad, that is good. Yeah, I know.
Well, I remember, yeah, like there's this guy named Jason Brennan who he's like about a third of society are like hobbits. Like they don't even vote. Like they literally don't, like, every
Yeah.
year there's about a third, between half to a third of people in national elections that are just like going about their day. They don't follow the election. They don't watch the news. They're like, oh, new president just got elected. Oh, okay. Like it's just like it's not even on their radar. Like who's the president? That's a third of people already. At best, that's a third of people, right?
Yeah.
We have high turnout. Now, obviously, but this probably exists on a continuous spectrum from non-voter to voter, right? Where there's a lot of voters who aren't necessarily hobbits. They're not just like not giving any amount of a fuck about who's president, but they're giving like a very detached level of fuck, right? It's like, oh, like very like surface level reasons. My family votes Democrat, so I did. Or there's like, I saw one thing like, oh, I saw a feminist gets owned compilation. These Democrats seem crazy. Or I don't know, somebody told me that Republicans were going to take away my right to an abortion or something. And like, they just have like one issue where they're like, I'm going to vote for one of the other sides. And then a lot of people think of like informed voters as, okay, like at the very least, you've got the informed voters who are like really getting into the issues. And it's like, that's not even true. Like, informed voters is like, yeah, they might know some basic things about civics. They watch the news more frequently. But dude, like, I'm sorry, I've spoken to Rob. I've spoken to other people on these panels. I've spoken to Wick, and I've spoken to a ton of people who it's like, and I'm not saying all these people are stupid. I'm just saying, like, I've spoken to people who would be classified as informed voters, and they're still not very informed.
Yeah, I know. I know.
It's just like a very, very, very small group of people that you could say like, oh yeah, these are like the truly informed policy, like wonky voters. It's a very, very small percentage of people.
I'm starting
and
to
I don't know. That's why
appreciate
our
those
politicians are
people
stupid.
so much more. I don't know. I've talked a lot about just like the perceptions of people since moving here, and they have shifted considerably. You're saying this about the like median voter and how they kind of arrive at their positions, and I need to see it is the thing. Like the fact that there's one conservative commentator I can think of that I still willingly interact with, that I think acts like a normal human being, that I think is like has a human being underneath all of the bluster.
It's not just like an NPC just
Yeah.
like spouting off talking points.
Yeah, because like with Rob specifically, like that one, like with a lot of these people, and this is definitely like a me thing, but like it feels personal because of the proximity, right? There's proximity, and there's the, trying to have that bipartisan air, that everyone always says is a good thing. Like, hey, listen, Rob, we just disagree with him, but he's like a decent person. There's this, there's that, like, and fuck, dude, I lost street cred because I did that for people that were fucking crazy now, like,
I've never done that. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel that I do understand why people say that. Like people will say like, "Oh, come on, bro. Like it's just politics, man. Like come on, man." It's like, dude, it's not just politics. Like this
Yeah.
is serious, you
I
know? Like this is
I
like
was trying so
real
hard to
shit.
force myself to do it that way because I felt like if I try to like balance like criticisms from conservatives with reality, which is hard to do sometimes because they don't ever live in reality. And they constantly accuse us of not understanding them, of being, elitist liberals who, stay on the coast and don't understand how middle Americans think and shit
Yeah.
like that. And so like I spent a considerable amount of time and energy and, and reputation loss to really understand where they were coming from, only for as soon as the election happened, every single one of the principles and values that they said that they had to be thrown out the fucking window so that they could deport as many fucking brown people as possible. And, if someone said a goddamn thing about Israel, kick them out too. Fuck them. Every ally we have, kill them. Like, So
Yeah, it's just hard. It's just hard because I mean, like I had this. I think I had
They
this exact
asked
same
for-
conversation.
they asked for mercy and for understanding for years, and every single fucking like outside of like the extreme lefties, like I saw that happening at the governmental level. I saw outreach. What the fuck do these people want? I'm sorry, I'm a little angry about it, but you go ahead and tell your story now.
Well, yeah, like no, I mean that's exactly right. I mean, I just find it difficult to I just find it very difficult to separate, right? Because I had this conversation with Rob, right, where he really criticized. He gets really triggered because I don't even remember, like 6 or 7 months ago or something like that. It was before the election. I had said something like, oh no, it was a thing that happened during the election because Biden had said something like when that comedian had gave that speech at some RNC event, he had said something like, "Oh, Puerto Rico's a floating island of garbage" or something like that, right? And Biden had responded to that being like, "Oh, the only people who are garbage are the people cheering that on," or something like that, right?
Oh,
He was
and then
like-
they
and,
said,
you know,
"Oh
of
yeah,
course-
fucking."
Yeah, of course, Republicans got really offended. Oh, you're saying Trump supporters are garbage? Oh my
Are you
God.
cheering
they got, like-
on? Yeah, sorry.
right. It's like right. It's like you see, and and I had this debate where I'm just like, you know what? I'm going. Here's my argument. I'm going strict fact on what Biden said. I'm going. This is my. I'm not going this stupid lib like, oh, he's right. That's a little fucked up to say. No. I'm going like that. Biden was just correct with what he said. People who cheered that on were garbage. And at some point during the conversation, this was a conversation I was having with Pisco and Josiah.
Mhm.
And at some point I had said like, oh, I don't know. I don't remember who asked this question, or maybe I offered it up. I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like maybe like half of Trump supporters are garbage. Right. And I think Pisco and Josiah were a little bit hesitant to co-sign that statement, but and that's whatever. They might have a different view, but Rob is like to this day is like incensed that I said that. He's like, I can't.
Yeah,
believe you're
he
a fucking
has
piece
so
of
much
shit for
righteous
saying that.
indignation and so much like
Right,
wokey
and I'm just
style
like-
language
Yeah,
policing.
and what I said to him, when we had this conversation directly, I was like, Rob, I mean, look, here's the thing. I just have, a moral viewpoint, and I think that, half of Trump supporters, how many people voted for Trump? Probably about, 75, 80 million people. So if you were to say, hey, half of those people, the most extreme half of those people, 40 million people, which comes to like 10 or 12% of the US population, I'm willing to say that, yeah, like that's a group of people that I would call garbage, right? Because they
Yeah.
have a viewpoint that I would consider so morally abhorrent or so like criminally ignorant that it just like destroys society essentially, right? And Rob tried to get me with all these gotchas. He's like, oh, really? It was, he's like 25% of Kamala Harris voters, they said that they wished that Trump had been assassinated by that kid or whatever during the campaign event. You think they're garbage? And I'm like, yeah, Rob, I think if you say that that a guy should be killed for, during a political rally, yeah, that probably makes you a garbage person. I never said that Democrats were like this holier than thou fucking completely, great group of people.
Yeah.
I just happen to be in a coalition with them, but he's to this day just like indignant at that fact. And it's like, but he's never willing to actually debate like the merits of that. Like, look, okay, like I saw a poll, for instance, which showed that, I don't know, it was like 10% of Republicans are just like, they literally just approve of Vladimir Putin. Like that's an opinion they have. I saw a poll that was like,
really?
that was
what was the percent?
It was like 10% or something like that, right?
Jesus Christ.
And it was like, okay, like it was like 62% of people. The statement was immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country, and like 62% of Republicans agreed with that statement. And it's like, look, dude, I don't know how to describe a group of people that believe that immigrants are poisoning the blood of the country, right? Like, some Republicans will say like, oh, but Republicans could just say the same thing about you, Econoboy. And I'm like, yeah, they already do. Democrats have been called baby murderers for like decades now. We get called pedophiles all the time. We get called groomers. Like, this is, I mean, and obviously I think that's stupid to say. We can have a moral debate and we can have like a debate on what defines a pedophile or a groomer, right? And I guess you could have that debate, but like at the end of the day, obviously we're free to make our moral judgments. And that's, whatever. If you think that's a crazy thing for me to say, then, obviously we fucking have a really fundamental disagreement on our moral landscape, I don't know.
Yeah, and see,
and that should be reasonable.
Yeah, I hesitate to say his name just because I feel like he is someone that he's on his way out from it, I think. And we've had the conversations in DMs about like, man, he doesn't get to go out very much because of his, just like living situation, not in a bad way, just, the way that things are. He doesn't get to go out much. He has to take care of his kids. He doesn't get to interact with people outside of his house, like basically ever, unless it's, going and hang out with their group of friends that they already have. And it's like, okay, well, I understand why you might be having a massively different view of reality than me, but like, we need to chill on some of like this racist shit. Okay. Like
Sondsol, like, okay, you remember, like, I don't know if I can't recall if you're public where you used to live, but like,
Houston.
Obviously, okay, yeah, like you used to live in Houston, I should say, right? And it's like, okay, so, and you can look at the polls, right? And you can just like see that this is clearly a fact, right? Mm-hmm. If you poll people that live in communities that are filled with undocumented immigrants, places like Houston, places like border counties in Texas, what do the polls say? They say in terms of, if you compare it to the national average, and if you compare it to people who live in suburbs, and if you compare it especially to people who live in, the Midwest or rural Pennsylvania, like Rob Noor does, like, they are way more pro-immigrant. More pro-immigrant. And this is a completely confounding thing to the conservative worldview. How the fuck could it be the case that immigrants are so terrible and they're literally destroying communities with all of their gang violence and opioids, but the people who actually live with all of those immigrants are seemingly way more okay with those immigrants being there than your average, like, white suburban family in Iowa that probably sees a Mexican guy like once a week? And it's because, it turns out it's just like not true that they're that big of a problem. You know what I mean? It's like, and so conservatives will say, you need to get out of your bubble. You need to get out of your bubble. You need to get out of your bubble. And it's like, bro, I live
in the city. I'm outside of my bubble.
Kind of place. Yeah, like I live in like the kind of place that in theory, like Houston should look like Caracas. It should look like a complete hellhole, the way that conservatives talk about how immigrants affect
I
communities, and it's
I
like,
should
oh,
have
it
been
turns out it's
murdered,
just fine.
raped, and trafficked like 5,000 times.
Like
the amount of
Houston
times I've
should
been
look
in
like a
sketchy
fucking
in neighborhoods
yeah.
where there were illegal immigrants around, and I
Houston
didn't
should
get
look like a
killed or
fucking
robbed.
Call of Duty video game or something. Like
Yeah,
it should
fucking-
look insane.
Fucking Bel Air or Sharpstown area.
Like a favela. Yeah, like
dude.
it's like,
It
no,
would-
it's fine. Like what? What are you
Oh,
talking
fuck,
about?
I never
Like,
thought about that. Just like how bad, like specific areas of the city that I would walk around at night with no one else, like because I was just not that concerned about it. I never made the connection to, yeah, anyways. Jesus.
yeah, it's just
and-
completely ridiculous. Like, because conservatives will say, like, get out of your bubble. And it's like, bro, people that live in the areas that you're talking about do not agree
yes.
with your characterization of those areas, right?
Yeah.
Again, if immigrants were so bad for communities, then places that had a shitload of immigrants living in them would, in theory, be the most anti-immigrant. But
Yep.
it's like the exact opposite, right? Like, how could that be, Mr. Conservative? Maybe you're the one living in a bubble. Right?
Yes. And see,
Come on.
that's something
Uh,
there's like almost 0% chance of this ever happening. But like in the event that I end up retiring from streaming wholesale because it's just not a good idea for my career path going forward, like I so desperately want to have an off the record, unrecorded, just no full truth, no lies at all conversation with people like Rob Noor, with people who are conservatives in this space, and just like ask them for the things that like. 'Cause
I don't
again,
think Rob is lying. I think he I think he literally lives in a bubble. Like I think
Well,
that he,
when he says things when he
just-
says things to Pisco like, well, if that was just a regrettable thing, then it's just a regrettable thing when we accidentally deport people who are supposed to be here and we can't bring them back. Like we shouldn't do it, but it's regrettable and we shouldn't do it again. But like when he says that, it makes me feel like he's lying about what he thinks is and isn't acceptable. But he just
Well, Rob, I
is-
mean, Rob has said to, he said this to me, and he's also said this to Pisco, where, he literally okay, so number one, Rob has said before that his number one issue is corruption in the FBI. He's like,
I
this
know,
is
he
what
said that.
decides my vote, right? He's like, I vote based on who's the best on corruption in the FBI, right?
ironic.
Now, obviously, an extremely implausible calculus in the first place. Like, oh, really? Like, even if we had like the Russian fucking KGB level FBI, like, I still don't know that it would be the number one issue that I'd be voting on. But forget about that for a second. It's like, okay, sure, right. His argument, and he said this to both myself and to Pisco, is that to disagree with him about his characterization of the corruption in the FBI, that to disagree with him about that fact is so facially absurd that you must be acting in bad faith. Like, that's his opinion. He thinks that disagreeing with him about his characterization of corruption in the FBI is like disagreeing that 1 + 1 = 2. That it's like just such an obvious, it's like going outside and the sky is blue and saying, no, the sky is actually pink. It's like
That's
it's
insane.
No, he said this multiple times. Like
I
he has
know.
said like it's impossible to disagree with him on the FBI because if you disagree with him, you literally must be bad faith.
I
to do so.
did not. I have never heard him say that. To that, I've heard him say that his number one issue is that, but I never heard him say that. That makes so much sense now, and doesn't make me feel as bad about losing respect for him because there was no reason to respect him in the first place. Holy shit! If your
No, it's just-
entire like
Yeah.
you start off on an assumption because of something that happened to some politician that you like a whole bunch, and then you go on to devote the next 10 years of your fucking life to spiraling down a cum-sucking rabbit hole where you have to defend every retarded and immoral action that the guy does because you decided that your number one political issue 10 years ago was going to be something that was based off of a complete fucking lie. I understand him now. We need. I understand him. That
Your theory of
Econo
Rob
Boy,
Norris.
my theory of Rob Norris, my mental scheme of him is fully, and I understand what we need in this country to fix issues like this is the asylum system, and to bring back lobotomies to deliver people like Rob from their suffering. What the fuck? There's no way that that's true, that he has devoted the past 10 years of his life to arguing with people online because he believed one bad story 10 years ago and he's in too deep. That is the most depressing and frankly believable story about Rob Noah I've ever heard. Okay, continue. I can't fucking believe that. That's so disgusting. I'm sorry. I modeled the ways that I've approached information based off of the people that I've argued with, based off of suggestions that they've given. That motherfucker gave me suggestions on how to parse information correctly and how to be a more informed person. I should jettison all information in my head immediately.
Deprogram yourself.
What the fuck? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and I find that, I find that a lot of conservatives just, a lot of conservatives and, Democrats too, I guess. I think that a lot of Democrats are kind of, the truth is, I think that Democratic voters are just as susceptible to like cult of personality and things like this. Now, I think that
Bernie.
probably, yeah. I mean, I think that to be fair though, probably, in reaction to Trump, I would say like Democratic voters probably are like a little bit more primed against that kind of thing, like purely in reaction to Trump, right? It's almost like
That's fair.
I don't know. You have
I
right,
also
like
think
you
that
have
the
like
just left wing in general is less predisposed to that sort of thing simply because they can't get along with each other at all. So they would be more likely to fight than to ever get along and coalesce under one single person.
right, and so but at the same time though, I think this is just a problem with our media institutions, right? Where I think people, it clearly is a problem with our media institutions, right? Because you have people who think that, you look at polls and like you ask people to like, hey, like how, do you think crime is increasing or decreasing or whatever? And like nobody can get that right. Everyone thinks crime is increasing all the time, even though it's decreasing. People in, like I already mentioned, like people in like immigrant dense neighborhoods think immigration is fine, but people who live in suburbs are like, oh my God, immigration is destroying the country. And it's like, this can't possibly follow from anything
Right.
other than the way that people are consuming their information is just fundamentally fucked, right? Like people are being propagandized to.
Yeah. And that's something that I'm going through like a rapid like seeing the world in a very different way because I've moved and because everyone's acting in such poor behavior, in my opinion. Fuck. What was the last thing that you just said? I lost my train of thought because I saw chat move.
They're people's information, like the way that people are consuming information is just fucked.
Yeah, it is fucked. And I'm going through this rapid transformation. I'm trying to not fucking hate people. I'm trying to go back to at least closer to not exactly where I was because I think that I was an actual cuck for conservatives to be able to shoehorn their specific, they acted all nice and then as soon as they got power, they abused the fuck out of it and acted smug about it.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Sondsol, have you reckoned with the fact that we are only 1/16 of the way through this ride?
I know.
We've got another 15/16 of the way
I know.
to go, Sondsol. Fuck.
And
Anyway,
the thing that's getting to me the most is not just the news itself. It's the people's reaction to it, right? And I think that I need to stop hating people before I start working in DC in a political capacity. Like, I'm not saying I'm getting elected, but like to work with the Democratic Party, I probably need to be able to work with people even if I don't agree with them. But man, I fucking hate them because they act like hateable people. How the fuck can how because I think you're a better person than me because you can sound nicer and probably be nicer than me despite saying, you're a bad person. How the fuck do you do it? How do you not tell them to kill themselves? When they're shit like when they're saying shit like, yeah, I am glad that they're deporting people. I don't care if they've done anything illegal, blah, 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 blah. Or like people like Aircraft Sparky who are saying like, okay, well, if they won't let the planes land in Venezuela, then just push them out the door.
I mean, that guy literally said I should be killed.
Well, I think that I told him like he is such a detestable fat piece of shit. Like I know that when he dies a diabetic death, he will look up from hell at his family talking shit about him and knowing that they will never bring him up at another Thanksgiving. Just every single fucking thing that guy has been a part of since I've been around streaming has been the most deplorable fucking hateful fucking bullshit. And then he tries to act like a loving Christian. He is an actual subhuman piece of shit who, if he were to be hit by a car tomorrow and drugged down the road until he was barely a stain on the fucking pavement, it would not be enough punishment for someone like him for all of the disgusting fucking things that he said. Anyway, you go on. Tell me how to be a less of a hateful piece of shit.
If we ever do a political online politics MMA boxing event, it'll be Sondsol versus Aircraft Sparky in the co-main event. But no, I mean, that guy obviously he did literally say I should be killed, which is pretty wild. But he's kind of a really weird guy. But I mean, I don't know. I think to answer your question, I mean, I find that people are just I like the term victim of propaganda, right? Where like obviously people should be held accountable for their actions, and I think that if you do vote for like at the end of the day, if you're an adult and you're casting a vote for somebody, like there's accountability that needs to be
yeah.
Like people like Richard Hanania, right? Where it's like he kind of did this recent round trip on all these different channels and stuff where he's like, yeah, I mean, fuck, like, I'm sorry. Like, I just thought Trump wouldn't be this crazy or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but like, do you recognize that was like really generationally stupid of you to think? Like, because it's one thing to just be like, oh, I made a mistake. Like, I thought this
when
amount of sugar in
everything
this
was
recipe.
out there right in front of you. Every single thing. That's the thing that bugs me, is anyone that acts surprised when every single fucking thing that everyone has said was going to happen has happened and is in the works. They're talking about suspending habeas corpus. They're talking about getting rid of your right to contest being detained.
I think as well, like, I think it's, at least for my political analysis, like if, I personally speaking, like, I think that, one of the ways at least that I can kind of detach myself and not get too heated during these conversations is like, it's like, look, we're just like a completely different, like, it's like, we're just like completely different people, right? Like, if I'm running for office and I'm like going out, I'm trying to get people to vote for me, I'm just skipping your house, right? Like, I'm not even knocking on your door, right? We're not even now wasting my time with a conversation. Like I know that to beat you in a election is to just get more like-minded people out to vote. And like, this is like the race that has to exist. And I think that, I think that even like running that way tends to be more effective because I don't know. I think that there is a margin of people who voted for Trump. Like, I would say, I don't know, maybe like 10% of people that voted for Trump. So maybe like 5% of the electorate overall. There is a margin of people that is convincible that like there is a way to get them to vote for Democrats, right? But I think that, generally speaking, the way to get them to vote for Democrats isn't to pander to them like they're children. At least that doesn't seem to have worked, right? Like, it doesn't seem that the Democratic strategy of like, oh, like, look at this bipartisanship and look at this infrastructure. It's like, no. Like,
It's
why are they
never
voting for
gotten
Trump?
them.
Right?
It's never gotten the Democrats anything to
Right.
be
It's like, well,
bipartisan
why
for Trump. Never, ever, ever.
like why are like the reason why they're voting for Trump, this margin of people who is voting for Trump who would vote for Democrats, right? They're voting for Trump for reasons like, oh, I think he's a strong leader, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, how do you like project strength and strong leadership? You don't go on an apology for being a Democrat tour. No, like you say things with your chest. You advocate for policies forcefully, right? That's
Yes.
one way to do it, right? It's like, okay, well, why are they voting for Trump? Well, they're voting for Trump because they think that there's some like material reason that Trump is better, like, oh, he'll do this, he'll do that. And it's like, well, you just
No,
have to
they
try to
don't
make
think
that
that.
argument.
That's the
No. There
thing.
is no. There's
You
there's a
think?
small margin of people.
Oh,
A
small,
small
margin.
margin.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm saying like you have to think about like how are these margins of people convincible, right? And it's just not like this bipartisan shit isn't gonna work. And like a lot of like I feel like a lot of Democrats in their heads, they're like, oh, that margin of people was gettable, but then you called Republicans stupid, and now they're just gonna vote for Republicans for the next 10 years. And it's like, dude, if that was true, then the Democrats are pedophiles and groomers fucking party wouldn't have won in a landslide
Yeah.
this last election. That ain't how that works, dumbass. Like, what the fuck, you know? Like, I hear this from so many people where it's like, oh, and that's why, kind of boy, that's why they're not voting is because you're so condescending. Brother, you're voting for the most condescending asshole that we've ever fucking had as a president.
know.
What
And
are you
that's the-
talking about?
And see, like that's the beginning of my like descent into madness recently was this conversation I had with some people on Twitter, who were a bunch of Midwesterners who were doing the, oh, you liberals, you talked down to us for so long, blah blah blah, blah. And
Talk down to us.
it's like I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and they are just happy about what's going on. They make no qualms about it being good for the economy. They don't think that it's going to be good for the economy. They were in the Midwest, and maybe it's possible that more manufacturing comes back to the United States as a result of the tariffs. But really what the point is to fuck the liberals for all that the liberals stole from them by getting rid of manufacturing in America. Right? And the more that I argue with these people, the more people were hopping on, and the more they were like posting other posts about this, like, you are in the minority, Sondsol, you are in the minority. And they were posting, like, quote posting things that had like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of likes. They saying, I don't care if it makes the economy better. That's not the main goal for me. The main goal is hurting liberals as much as possible for what they've done to me. And I don't know if that's more online than it is offline. Just the only reason that it fucked me up is how many likes that it got, how many shares that it got, how widespread that thought is, and how you govern a people who vote to harm specifically another segment of your population. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, well, that's kind of what I'm saying though, is that like I don't think you can really. Like I think you just have to win. Like you just have to like beat these people in elections, right? Like I think that I feel like in America there's I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because of how static our political system is and like how hard it is to get anything done. I think that's probably the explanation. But like I feel like in America there's this much more there's this much more like popular culture of bipartisanship and like the idea that you have to like be willing to compromise and like work with the other side to get anything done. But that shit just like doesn't seem to exist in many other countries. Like in many other countries, I recall one time it was during the Brexit negotiations when the UK decided that it was sick of being, in the EU, I guess.
Mhm.
And they Theresa May, who was the prime minister, she couldn't get anything passed. Like, she literally proposed like fucking 6 or 7 different deals or something, and like every single one of them got voted down by Parliament. And this is obviously an untenable situation because, in theory, in a parliamentary system, the government is supposed to be able to pass like anything that it proposes, right? Because it's the
Right.
government, like you have a majority of the seats or whatever. And she did this thing where she was like, okay, like whatever, I can't get anything passed, then I'm going to invite the opposition leader to these negotiation talks, and maybe we can work on like a cross-bench basis to get this done. She was roundly criticized and made fun of for doing this. Like, her own party stood up and they were like, why the fuck are you inviting a member of another party into these trade negotiations when you are the government? He is not in the government. He lost the election. He has no right to be part in these negotiations. And that was the general attitude in the British population, that like,
Damn.
he has no right, even though he's the opposition leader, even though he represents about half the country or whatever, he is not part of the government. We are the government, right? Fuck this guy. Like, it doesn't matter that maybe it's easier to pass if, you get this guy's votes on board. You shouldn't need his votes. You have a government, right? And similarly, I just think that that's how, I do think that that's how Democrats should govern when they, when they campaign. At least that's how they should have, that's how they should frame things. That's how Democrats should think about governing when they're actually in office. Is like, look, we're, you voted for us. We have a mandate to do things. And if Republicans want to get on board, if they want to support the Democratic shit, then they can vote for it. But we're not gonna just like sit around and like wait for Republicans to get on board, because they never will. That's what Obama did.
But the problem is, the difference between those systems and our system is that we have the Senate, and we do need to make
Yeah,
friends.
but that's dumb. Like, if a Democrat,
sorry.
If a Democrat, if there's a Democrat in office,
hold on, I was super on board until does this only make sense if you're also advocating for abolishing the Senate?
No, I'm talking about the filibuster. If there's a Democrat in office who is not in favor of getting rid of the filibuster, I don't care if it's Joe Manchin in West. They need to be primaried out of their seat. You can't be a Democrat and be like, we don't believe in getting rid of the filibuster. You just can't be. I'm sorry, to be a Democrat in the Senate and to say we simply cannot get rid of the sacred filibuster is to basically say we just shouldn't pass anything. The Democratic platform is just simply not worth it. We actually don't really care if the Democratic platform gets passed. That's what you're saying if you're in favor of and that's what Republicans are saying. If a Republican says, no, the Democrats are blocking everything, but we can't stop that because the filibuster. Okay, Mr. Republican, you are saying that I would rather just not do any Republican shit, because of the filibuster. And that's just stupid. That's dumb. What the fuck's the point of voting for Republicans if you're not going to like do anything while you're in office, right?
Yeah.
And same thing for Democrats. Like, the filibuster is a terrible institution, and I don't care if you're Jared Goldman or
Sonia
something.
Willenbrecht, if you are so you know what?
No.
This is probably some old lady. She has a first and last name. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to get triggered. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I'm just saying, like, I feel like, if you're a Democrat and you're like, oh, no, I don't believe in getting rid of the filibuster, it's like, okay, well, then you're just not a Democrat. You believe in doing, like, none of the Democratic things. It's like, yeah, we can't, raise the minimum wage. We can't pass immigration reform. We can't protect our democracy. We can't reform the Supreme Court. We literally cannot do anything except for maybe a tax increase here, maybe a little bit of spending expansion here.
Everything is tailored through the lens of what the Republicans will say about it, and it's really, really fucking cucked.
Well, yeah, it's just, and again, this doesn't exist in other countries. Like, other countries have majoritarian systems. You win a majority of the seats, you can do all the shit. while you're in office until you lose the next election, right? And that doesn't result in tyranny. It doesn't result in these governments like becoming dictatorships or anything like that. It just, there's elections and sometimes you win and lose. But, when you elect a government, you're actually electing people to do things, right? And you're not electing a government to, respect this archaic institution of stalling and lack of progress, right? Like governments need to be mobile. And so, I just don't have any, personally speaking, like I just don't have any tolerance for that anymore. Like if a Democrat is like, no, I don't believe in, like I posted on Twitter recently, because I've been thinking about like what could cause me to just be like, I'm fully abandoning the Democrats. I'm like, no, I'm not even going to vote for Democrats.
I thought about that too.
Like, yeah, and I was like, I posted on Twitter, I was like, scenario, and this was the scenario. The scenario was, I just said a Democratic nominee, but you could imagine, like, I don't know, Andy Bashir or whatever, like, becomes the Democratic nominee, and I'm not saying Andy Bashir would do this, but, some, like, moderate type, like, centrist Democrat becomes, like, the Democratic nominee in 2028, right? And because, let's just say it's such a bad environment for Republicans that, like, whatever, like Marco Rubio or whoever the Republican nominee is ends up, like, losing in 2028, right? And then, of course, after the coup attempt and after January 6 2.0 happens, the Democrat ends up taking office, right? And let's say that this Democrat comes out and says, I am fully pardoning Trump and Trump's family for any crime that they committed in office because we need to, whatever, like we need to like rebuild the national unity and like we need to respect this and that. And like, we have to move on. We have to like stop all this fighting. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was like, if a Democrat did that, I don't think I could ever vote for a Democrat.
True.
Like I was like, that is a level of fecklessness that I'm like, I think people who are voting for the Green Party are just correct. Like, I think like
yes.
At a certain point, it's like you have to have a minimum
conviction
standard, right? Like exactly, right? Like you have there
things
are
that are happening right
standards.
now. The things that are happening right now. Because I thought about this, while I was cleaning my room yesterday,
just thinking about the country,
dude. I might need therapy because of it, dude. It's like that bad. Like I just think about it. We were talking about leaving the Democratic Party. I keep on losing my train of thought too. Damn it.
I was talking about how I was like, dude, if they pardoned Trump's family for the sake of like national unity, I was like,
oh yeah, I was thinking to myself, I was thinking to myself, like, man, you know what? Like, is that something that we have to give these people, right? Because I was talking earlier about like how we have to coddle our language, and you were saying too, like, if we call them stupid, suddenly they're not going to vote for us. They were going to vote for us in the first place, right? Like we have to coddle everything. Do we have to coddle their crimes as well? Do we have to just allow whatever they want to fucking do while they're in office and then never fucking retaliate? Because immediately, as soon as a Democrat gets in office, they need to arrest like several hundred people that are connected to the Trump family right now, with all of the crypto scams that are going on, with all of the multiple deals that are going on all over the fucking world, the very obvious quid pro quos with Elon Musk and the fucking government contracts that are happening, with the Starlink, with the tariff negotiations. I just can't, like, I don't know how brutal and how aggressive they need to be, but if there isn't a good several dozen lifelong convictions, I will single-handedly lead a revolt against this country and install myself as the
or at the very
leader.
least, like at the very least, like a substantial legal effort, right? Like Biden did, like there was a lot of legal effort.
Yes, it would be unconscionable morally to allow people who are selling the country that I just learned to love, selling it, not.
Well, well, the thing is, like, I don't know. It was interesting because I posted that on my Twitter. My Twitter's obviously like 99% Democrats that follow me, obviously, are like left-leaning people.
Yeah.
And, like about 75% of people were like, oh, yeah, even if that happened, I'd still vote for the Democrat in 2032. And I was like, man, like, I just know. Because people are like, I understand the hypothetical, right? It's like, okay, you've got Hitler versus 99% Hitler. Like, who do you vote for? And some people will say, you are just absolutely morally obligated to like go out and vote for 99% Hitler if those are your only two options. And it's like, yeah, but look, like I do get that, but obviously there are not literally only two options in our election. It's like not vote or vote for the two parties. You could obviously write someone in, you could obviously, vote for a third party or something like that. And I guess to the extent that you could not vote in mass, I mean, like, for instance, like, I think that, it was clear that, like, of the polling that I saw, there was about 2 or 3 million people who just, like, didn't vote for Harris because of, what they perceived to be, like, kind of a milquetoast position on Israel-Palestine. And again, you can either agree or disagree with that, obviously, but that's impactful, right? Like, that's a pretty clear message on that issue, like that specific issue at the very least.
What was the
right?
percentage?
And so, well, a percentage of what?
Oh, sorry, what was the number that you just said?
So I think there was about 10 million Biden voters who decided not to vote in 2024. And I think the poll that I saw from Gallup was that of those Biden voters, like about like 29% of them or something like that, said that the number one reason was because of the conflict in the Gaza Strip.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so that's like 2 or 3 million people. And so, and then there was like a whole bunch of other things, right? But the point is that, like, I don't know. I just think like you really should have some reasonable minimum standard. And I'm not saying, look, like I'm a pretty far left guy at this point in my life. I think Democrats are like not mostly bad, but Democrats do a lot of bad policy as well, right? And it's not like, or at the very least, we could say like highly suboptimal policy,
Right.
And so it's like, okay, look, I'm not saying Democrats have to go full bore, far to the fucking left, implement socialist paradise or whatever, but like, damn, dude, like I think not letting the guy get away with all this corruption is fucking a pretty goddamn reasonable middle grade. If you can't meet me at the table and agree that that's a fucking let's say a president took office and it was a Democrat, and let's say that they signed an abortion ban. Like a Democrat was like, oh, I'm a pro-life Democrat. I'm going to ban abortion in all 50 states federally. I'm going to completely defund Planned Parenthood or whatever. Would we still vote for him? Like, what if they did that and they also started a war with Iran?
Right.
Okay, what if they did that and then they also like cut taxes to the rich to 0% or something? Like, it's like at a certain point we have to be willing to say like values. This just doesn't, like it doesn't reflect what we're basically trying to get out of the Democratic Party, right?
Right. And the thing is, so, like, I don't even have high standards anymore. But
I don't. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just like, these are pretty basic things that I'm talking about. This isn't some wild, wide-eyed shit. It's just like, hey, when you get in office, I'm expecting the DOJ to investigate all this corruption. Like, it just seems like there's a lot of corruption here. I'm expecting the Democratic president to take like Supreme Court reform seriously, right? Like that's probably a really important thing. What's some other like very big, like obviously I'm expecting, I don't think this is like much at issue, but like I would expect the Democrats to be, in favor of more spending and more taxes on the rich and things like that. Like those are pretty basic things. So, but I don't know. I am worried that the next Democratic president does some shit like that, where they're like, "Oh yeah, we can't address anything with the Supreme Court, and also the Trump is totally getting off the hook for everything." It's like, okay, dude, like,
yeah, it would be ultimately
what the
cucked,
fuck?
and it would send the wrong message. Like, because at this point, I think that I'm being radicalized into like a radical form of liberalism. Like an extremely radical, like neocon, neoliberal fusion, Death Star liberalism ideology. It's like democracy is not not an option, right? You get to live in a democracy. You get to have free trade. You get to follow the law. And if you decide that you don't want to participate in those things, then you're out, right? That's like how I feel at this moment. Like if we are going to have a country that is supposed to be this capitalist, liberal enlightenment, all the things that we are supposed to stand for, all the things that all the books I'm reading right now are saying that America stands for, right? When it comes to rule of law, when it comes to upholding the Constitution, when it comes to not deifying tyrants and shit like that, right? It just at a certain point, TLDR, we have to have people of character, and we have to have people who aren't going to use their position to sell the entire country because it gets them money in their bank account. That's the
obviously.
TLDR.
I mean,
I repeat myself like a million times on the
well, but I
saying
think
this.
also it's about like, I think that, I don't know, like I think also we can't let off the hook, and I don't know that these people committed any crimes or anything, obviously, but it's like, socially speaking, there's people who, again, people like Dan Crenshaw or people like Lindsey Graham, where it's like they're just completely okay with, they're ultimately okay with like all the stuff.
Lindsey Graham is, I can't believe that this man owns, like any of his cabinets, or owns a bed, or because it feels like the only furniture item this man knows is the cuck chair in the corner. Holy fucking shit. His entire fucking life has been defined by how much of a neocon freak he is. And even the past couple of years has been defined by his support for Ukraine. The literal microsecond that there was a fight between Zelensky and Trump, it was, Ukraine has never said thank you. He is the most cucked, he is the least respectable, and he just has no character whatsoever for anything that you could have said for any of these people before. And that's not too terribly much, in my opinion. Like, granted, I've never had a high opinion of Lindsey Graham, but like, holy fuck, these people, like, they've literally, Trump has sat there and insulted their wives. He's insulted their families. He's insulted everything that they hold near and dear to their hearts. And they go out of their way to defend him. I don't understand it.
Well, it's easy.
I have too much. I have too much pride. Someone would have to literally murder me in broad daylight to get me to, like, they would have to be torturing me in the city square to get me to say anything approximating the levels of like selloutness that these guys have done. It's unreal. That's why I don't understand human beings right now, because I don't understand how you can have the same conscious experience or the same type of conscious experience as me and not want to instantly wash your mouth out with fucking 12 gauge for doing what you've done. Sorry.
Well, there's obviously a margin of Republicans who, they did get just cycled out of the party because they did, have some of these like, disagreements, quote unquote, with Trump. And so now what's left is just like the weakest, most like pathetic, like reduced down Republicans.
And that's what it is, pathetic.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, because I don't know. I just find that I just don't like. It's just like, is it even that? Like, how fucking awesome is it to be a U.S. senator? Like, dude, like, what is happening? Like, is it worth it? Like, I just don't like. That's one thing that I'm just like, dude, am I just like not getting this? Like, because I'm just like, look, okay, like you're making good, you're making good money. Obviously, you get good connections, and people. I guess people care what you think because you're a senator and you get to go on the news and stuff, and like that's cool, I guess. But dude, like if you're like, take Lindsey Graham as like a good example, like we were just talking about him. Like Lindsey Graham, right? He's been in office for 30 years now. He's almost 70 years old. Like, what? Who even, bro? You did it. You won the game of life. Like you could, like you already like won, right? You've been a U.S. senator for fucking ever at this point. Like, what are you getting out of this?
What is the point in
you've done
ruining your legacy?
Yeah, exactly. Like what?
You could have been beloved. You could have been beloved by Republicans forever and ever. Now you're hated by the Republicans, and you're still cucking yourself out. You're selling out every value you have, and Republicans still think that you're a spineless little weasel. So what are you getting out of this? It's like do you remember the Louis C.K. pedophile joke that got him in so much trouble on SNL?
No,
he basically said like it must be really good because they just keep doing it. No matter how much bad stuff happens to the other ones, they just keep on doing it. So like there must be a reason that they're doing it. I'm not saying that it's good, but it's like it feels that way but instead of trying to understand why someone would be a pedophile, it's trying to understand why someone would be a elected official and support Trump. Like this is the same level of I don't understand your thought process. And that's crazy.
Yeah, like you've got guys like Ted Cruz, where it's like, dude, Ted, like, this is like pathetic. Dude. Like, it's honestly,
and with Ted Cruz, it's
shameful.
the worst. It's like, I recently, I think we had like a day where we were making fun of Ted Cruz randomly for some reason on stream, and we watched some of the things that Trump said to his face about his wife, and it's like, dude, within 6 months, that fat piece of shit was sitting in the fucking call center phone banking for the guy that made fun of his wife like that. Unbelievable.
Well, yeah, it's like can you imagine being Ted? It's like it's like Harvard Law School graduate, just like a U.S. senator, really respected, and obviously like a very intelligent person. You know, obviously he's got abhorrent politics, but you know, not a complete idiot. Like this is a guy who really succeeded in life, right?
Yeah.
And you just imagine like going to bed every fucking night and just like being Ted Cruz and just like knowing just like how incredibly pathetic your whole existence is, right? And how completely subservient you are to this completely idiotic, maniacal dude.
And that's
like,
why I
it's
keep
like
on
Ted
saying
Cruz, it's
I
like
don't
Ted
understand.
Cruz must know. Like Ted Cruz knows. He knows Trump is so much stupider than he is. Like way less qualified, way less prepared to be president, like way less deserving in many senses, right? But like it's like no, I have to do everything this guy says because I so love being a senator. It's like I don't know, man,
that's the thing that I don't understand. I do try to put myself in the shoes of other people a lot. When I criticize them a whole fucking bunch, I do have just like a reflexive thought, like, man, am I being unreasonable here? No, for Ted Cruz, like I don't know what it's like having that pressure on you as a senator. I don't know what it's like having, maybe conviction around specific things and saying, maybe I can put up with this for that, for the greater good of getting this policy through, right? Like at a certain point, man, looking at like the shit that he said about his wife, the things that he said about him, the things that he said about his children, bro. And then like people would be like, you're attacking his wife. That's crazy. Why would you attack his wife? He's like, because she's a fat fucking pig. I don't know what you want me to say. And like that's why it's such a mind fuck. Is
like, I can't
have
imagine
thought
being, like I've talked to my mom about this.
Yeah.
Like about how like I can't imagine being like a father of daughters and voting for Trump. Like there are people in my family that have daughters, right? And it's like I just like can't even like imagine explaining that. Like it's like, your daughter's young or whatever at a certain point, right? Like I have people in my family that have young daughters and obviously your daughters are young, they're not really interested in politics, like, whatever, right? But like at some point they're going to learn about Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go to high school or whatever and like learn about Trump and they're going to get more politically engaged. And they're going to, they're going to ask the question, right? They're going to be like, well, Dad, who did you were around when who'd you vote for? And you're stuck between, obviously it's not a rock. You could just say you voted for Kamala, right? Like I will, I guess, right? You're like, yeah, I just voted for like the completely obvious option. And maybe that's not awkward. But then for people who vote for Trump, right? Like you have to.
How do you face? Yeah.
Yeah, like, dude, I just don't, like, I really don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard stories like this. I don't know if this is like a thing that's kind of like cropping up because obviously Gen Z, like obviously like Gen Alpha and Gen Z, like women and girls are like literally North Korean fucking level supporters
Yeah,
of the Democratic Party. So
is he like, I don't know. I see my brother, the woman he is going to marry is Israeli. And she voted
He's really
for Trump. Really fucking stupid. But she voted for Trump, her and her basically her entire family, because they're Israeli and
she's from Israel?
Yes. And I don't know what the fuck because last time I saw them, right, I was still like more pro Israel in the conflict than pro Palestine or pro Gazan, but like I was sympathetic to the Gazan like civilians, and like, you know, like I had like a pretty standard view, right?
Mm.
So she was fine with it. Man, now I'm actually like pretty pissed at Israel because they've gone ultimate maximalist because Trump has given them full say so to do whatever they want. They're about to do a fucking full ethnic cleansing into Gaza. The next time I see this woman, I'm going to have to talk to her nicely and not bring up the fact that she voted for Trump. And she brings up the fact that she's from Israel all the fucking time. So like, yeah,
I mean, she might just like what Netanyahu's doing. Like, I don't know.
well, I don't know. I have not talked. I've spared my brother the pain of talking about it since. But like, dude,
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
that
I don't. I
household
mean, I
must
remember.
suck.
You know, and I don't. And I haven't had this conversation. You know, I have the people in my family that have young daughters. You know, I haven't had this conversation with them. I haven't tried to like shame them and be like, how the fuck are you gonna, you know, face up to your daughter when she grows up and asks you what the fuck you were doing
Yeah.
and how you voted during this period. But that is a genuine, like, I am curious. I really am curious, like, what that dynamic is like, because I have no idea. Like, obviously, I'm a fucking filthy leftist, and I guess if I have kids, you know, they'll either agree with me or they'll hate me they'll be conservatives and they'll hate me. Of like the
Yeah.
young conservative kids or something. But you know, I do find that would be a very difficult conversation, because I've seen some videos like that. Like, okay, for instance, I saw a video of it was like a dating show or something, and I don't remember the exact premise, but it was like they go on a date and then it's like she decides if she wants a second date after that or whatever. And the girl, she was like, okay, like it was a pretty good date and you're cute and everything. I got one last question for you though. Who'd you vote for? And the guy was like, oh shit. I mean, you know, like here's the thing. And what he said was, he's like, the thing is, I voted for a cabinet. Okay. I didn't
Oh, that
necessarily, and
cuckold.
it's like, dude, just you voted for
Own
Trump.
it. Yeah.
And she completely was like, well, you know, the thing is, it was a good date, but I kind of believe in, you know, democracy, so I'm not
Yeah.
gonna have a second date with you. And I was like,
Yeah.
and I
But,
don't know.
like,
I'm curious how
for-
people will handle that family dynamic.
Yeah, and I like wonder, because something you said earlier, like this girl, she, you know, she's left leaning by all accounts for every other topic, literally ever, except for this one when it comes to Israel. And so like,
She's like, look, I think women should have the right to choose, and also Palestinians are
no,
dogs.
she's like a mega radical feminist, like,
Yeah.
but like not radical feminist, like she hates trans people, just like she's like, you know, the Tumblr feminists. And like, it's just like, dude, how the fuck do you look at your employees? How do you look at your coworkers who are LGBT, who are trans, right? Like, I know some of her coworkers. How do you look at them after voting for Trump and everything that's going on? How do you?
I saw Dr. Ab. You know Dr. Abby or Abby, whatever. You know that guy?
Yeah, the Ask Yourself debater guy.
Oh, I don't know how he's connected to Ask Yourself, but he's you know, we know you know who I'm talking about. Like that guy, he said he voted for Trump, and
No fucking shot.
no, he did, and he's defended this publicly. He said, and I've actually, you know, I've never seen him get into this calculus, like in an in-depth way. Let's just say. But what he said was, he's like, the reason I voted for Trump, and I don't know if he's Israeli or if he's like just Jewish and has a like connection to Israel or something. Like he takes like Israel and Palestine to be a very serious issue, obviously, and he also the reason he said he voted for Trump ultimately, this was like hey, my number one issue, right? He goes, my number one issue, the reason I voted for Trump is because I think that global terrorism is the single biggest issue.
That
so I
is
think Trump's better than that.
insane.
So he voted for Trump. And it's like, dude, Abby,
He's
like,
one of the smartest people I've encountered online.
hey,
he's-
literally, and I've never heard him, you know, That's what I was gonna say. Like I'm sure he's had this debate somewhere, and I just haven't found it or whatever. But I do not know with what plausible framework you could possibly say that the number one issue facing this country is global terrorism. Like it's like, dude, how the fuck many people? Even how many people?
The last time we had a terrorist
fucking
attack that wasn't a domestic terrorist, I think, was like 2019 or 2018.
Well, even if it's like, dude, how many people on the planet are killed by terrorists? And let's compare that to how many people are going to die because they don't have like their malaria fucking medicine
Stuff
or
because
whatever.
Of USAID, yeah.
USAID getting
Here,
shit.
1 second.
Like,
I have to address something in chat. Corey Pelson, you know what my opinions on in Israel-Palestine are. You are acting like an absolute fucking extremist. If you think that what I said was supporting Hamas, you are crazy. I know you fly off the handle whenever I disagree with you on this, but you're going to have to live with this one. You are absolutely but fucking insane if you think that Israel has to do what it's currently they have to do what they're currently doing in order to secure secure their security for their nation, that they have to kick out everyone from Gaza. You're butt fucking insane. You were joking about the girl's family voting for Trump. She is going to be my sister-in-law. I understand why she voted for Trump. She's retarded for doing it. She is counterintuitively ruining the state of Israel and ruining its reputation on the world stage. And if they actually gave a fuck about Israel, and if Israel gave a fuck about Israel, and if Netanyahu gave a fuck about Israel, they might not try to play into every single maximalist fucking crazy conspiracy that people have about Israel trying to kill all Arabs. Anyway, Akana Boy, you can continue.
Yeah, no, I mean that's I saw Dr. Abiy say that, and I was just like, man, like I just like that is so. And I don't. Maybe he's updated this like Hanania, and maybe he said like this was a huge I don't know if he has, but it's like, dude, like this is just such a like. Here's the thing, okay. I've gotten some criticism because my election prediction was wrong. I thought Kamala would win, and it's like, oh, that shows. There's an example of a Akana Boy getting a thing wrong, and it's like, yeah, sure. Like, elections are hard to predict. I'm not a guru or anything like that. It's just a little thing I threw out there. But to, like Hanania, right? And I don't know if Abiy backed off of this position, but like to say some shit like that, right? To be like, oh yeah, like the number one issue facing this country is global terrorism, and that is why I'm voting for this completely maniacal, insane person known as Donald Trump, is just such a wildly stupid. Like, it's not like, oh, these things are
position, because it tells us exactly what the where your priorities lie. It's like literally you have one issue that rises above literally all and will cloud your judgment on all other issues.
Well, like what I've said is my number one issues are poverty and inequality, right? Like those are my number one issues. Now, they're not my only issues that I vote on. I'm sure Abiy wouldn't say that his only issue is terrorism. He just thinks it's the biggest one or whatever. But the thing is, okay, like poverty and inequality, right? It's like, okay, I feel like it's at least plausible that would be the biggest problem, right? Like there's at least like, it seems sensible that like, oh, millions of people living in poverty and billions of people around the world living in poverty, that's like a pretty big issue, right? But fucking like Richard Hanania, right? He was asked, what were like the big things that you feared? Like why, like what were the push factors that pushed you into voting for Trump? And he was like, well, I just thought that if Kamala won, she would just, she would put us one step higher on the ladder towards like no. He said something even stupider than that. Okay.
Oh no.
He goes, they put us one step higher on the ladder towards like European style social democracy, and it's like okay, hold on. So you looked at European style social democracy
and said, no, I don't want that.
And, no, and fuck that. Let's just say you looked at it, right? And you were like, I think this is bad, whatever. Like for whatever reason, I think that this is not a way we should govern society. you looked at that and you said you looked at a place like the UK, and you looked at a place like France, and you looked at a place like Norway, and you said to yourself, this is so bad, I'm voting for the Haitians are eating cats and dogs guy. How could you possibly look at how the fuck could you look at how European society is governed and be like, this is such a disaster that I'm going to vote for the Haitians are eating cats and dogs guy?
It's because
what
perception is just completely
lens?
skewed. And speaking of
Yeah,
skewed
like, I just-
perceptions, Corey, if you support Palestine without any conditions, you are far left. Congratulations. You didn't hear a word I said then. Did I say that at all, Corey? No.
That's
You heard
exactly
me
what you
have.
said.
Yeah, you know what? Sorry. Why are you undercutting me right now when I'm trying to maintain a viewer, okay? No. Listen, if you think that's what I said, then you're not fucking listening to me whatsoever. You need to clear out your fucking ears. Israel is fucking themselves right now. And if you think that what they're doing right now is good, it's because you like Israel fucking themselves. All right, continue.
Yeah, I just when Richard said that, like, how bad do you think Europe is? Like, I don't know. Like, you go to a trip on, people. I have a sister-in-law. She went on a trip to Norway. She did this like whole like European fucking like 2-week long excursion. And it's like she's going there, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's just like buildings and people going to work, and it's just like how the fuck bad could you think you're like? Why would you even think that?
Well,
Why would you even if
I don't know
you
if
think
you've ever
it's
been
not
to Europe.
good?
Listen, I don't know if you've ever been to Europe, but when you go to the bathroom, there's 3 buttons on the wall and nothing on the toilet itself. And there's also a pull chain, and then there's a button on the far wall in addition to the light switches. So it does create a little bit of panic when you go to Europe if you're an American. Just saying, it's not unreasonable to feel a little bit panicked when you go to Europe.
You know, it was funny. My sister-in-law, she said, "This is where I think Richard and these other people are coming from." My sister-in-law, she went to London, right? And my wife's Pakistani, right? So my sister-in-law's Pakistani, and she was like, she goes, the thing about London is, I felt right at home. She was like,
It's funny.
he was like, there was so many brown people in London, and
Dude, every conservative watching me on YouTube Shorts right now just had a fucking aneurysm.
No, I just think that's funny because I think that's honest. Like, it's like I think that is like legitimately 99% of the reason why conservatives think that quote unquote European style social democracy is such a disaster, because they're like, look at all these brown people. And it's like, bro, I'm sorry, do we live in a different country that's not called America? America has so many more brown people than Europe does. Right? Like, what are you talking about, dude? I love it when like white nationalists are like, diversity's failed us, and it's like, bro, the most powerful country in the history of the fucking planet, America, is also the most diverse. Right?
Yeah, I know. I lost all interest in arguing those or having those debates. Like, it used to be, I was busting out 2 or 3 debates with, sea-hiling neo-Nazis a day every stream. I thought I was in the fucking trenches. But like, holy fuck, you can only remind, other people in society that hating Black people is really fucking weird so many times before it gets really boring. It's only so many times that you can say, actually, diversity has created the most abundant, economy in human history. It gets at a certain point, you say
That's
the
all
same
you
thing
care
over
about.
and over.
GDP, Sondsol. That's the only thing that matters.
When you have no idea the level of violence that just rose in my fucking throat when you said that. I am so fucking tired of hearing the same couple of responses that are obviously, like, even on its face, like, yeah, the GDP going up is actually a good thing, you fucking retard.
So that's all that matters, really.
I would rather the GDP go up than any of those people live to see another day. Like, it bothers me that they are the same species as me. It makes me feel
entering
like
his
I need
truly
to,
unhinged arc.
like it makes me feel like I need to shower every time I'm reminded that they exist, because it's just like a level of intellectual like lack of curiosity that I would associate with lesser forms of sentience. Like literally, like a dog might have this level of sentience, or a dolphin might, if we're really lucky with the conservative that we're
I
talking
saw
to.
my friend from New York. He knows I'm from Texas. Obviously, he sent me a meme about Southerners. He was like average Southerner, and it's like a portrait of Adolf Hitler, and it's like average Southerner meal, and it's like cornbread with swastikas all over it, and he's like average Southerner. Um, it was like, and then I think the caption of the tweet was like, the average Southerner is an ape barely capable of sapience, or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
I was like, God damn, brother.
And see, like I tried to defend the deep stuff. I tried to defend Republicans for the longest time, but like at a certain point, you're doing it to yourself. I can't fucking defend. I tried to help myself hate them less, to stop seeing the hypocrisy. I read the Bible, Econo Boy. I read the New Testament, both audiobook twice, and
it's like it can't just be that they're stupid. Like he's like doing everything he can to like point that
literally
out.
I hated them more after reading the Bible. My dad is a pastor. I don't know if you knew this. My dad is a pastor, and I grew up in the church. And every Sunday I had this, the hippie version of, like, I just love everyone and want everyone to get along and want everyone who's sick to not be sick anymore. Don't worry about money because you'll be rich in the afterlife. Like, that's the Jesus I grew up with. And then I start going online and start talking to conservative, and they start telling me about how Jesus said you should care about your family first, and then your community, and then your nation, and then the amorous whatever the fuck JD Vance talked about, and all the things that the way that they talk about immigrants, the way that they talk about someone who was killed by police, right, before knowing any of the information, or the way that they talk about like any number of groups of people. And it just doesn't match up with the way that I was taught as a pastor's son to treat people who I don't know, right? And they told me he's Jesus is a guy who comes in with a sword, and a sword against those who don't believe, and blah, 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 blah. Every single person, every single conservative commentator that talks about the Bible, I think should be crucified themselves for the unbelievable misrepresentation of this religion. Man, you know what? I'm not a religious guy, and I don't, I'm not anti-theist. I'm not a religious person myself. Man, you know what? That is a religion of peace. I read through that. There's a couple of things that he said that I was like, man, you know what? He kind of does want them to be, like women to be, subservient to the husband. But that's the way it was back then. We can update our opinions, right? There was not a single fucking thing about hating immigrants. Jesus would have if people thought that the violence that he did at the temple when they were selling shit in the temple was unbelievable for the Son of God, the things that he would do to the modern Republican Party would make Jeffrey Dahmer fucking flinch.
Yeah, I think Jesus would like personally execute Elon Musk in public.
It would be the most righteous fucking crusade against evil. I cannot explain how often he talked about the rich and powerful and what they would have to do to get into heaven.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think is interesting about
Corey Pelsman. You have 5 minutes to jump into my Discord and jump into a voice call, or you're banned forever. I haven't read a single thing that you've said, but the fact that you said liberals love to clutch pearls, I already know that you are beyond fucking help. 5 minutes.
There you go. 5 minutes, Corey. Yeah, it is funny to hear conservative Republicans talk about Jesus and Christianity and stuff, because, my reading of the Bible, which I think is, I've done a lot of Bible research, right?
Right.
Like, my reading of the Bible, which I think is a pretty ordinary reading of the Bible, is like, Jesus legitimately thinks if you're rich, you are a piece of shit.
Yeah, like he is.
Because you're not like giving away your wealth.
The
or whatever.
lefties that we make fun of because of they just hate billionaires. Like just full stop. They just hate billionaires. They hate people who are wealthy. Like that. He's actually that person. and they all use him to say how much we should hate communists. I'm not saying he's a
He's here.
communist, but it's funny. Oh, he's here. Okay.
He's
Do you
here,
have
I think.
anything that you want to finish up on? Because I'm probably going to get into a heated argument over this.
Listen, best of luck, Corey, and I'm sure you'll demonstrate that you're very well read on the issues. And it was good talking, Sondsol. Hope everything's going well for you. And yep, hopefully the next 15/16 of this administration is smooth sailing.
Hopefully.
All right,
right.
talk to you later, bud.
Catch you later. All right, we're going to have a conversation with Corey from chat. Long-time chatter. First-time caller, I think. But first, I'm going to grab a glass of water. Jesus didn't even believe in getting a second pair of shoes in your lifetime? I don't even remember that part. Jesus. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to grab a glass of water. And then we'll talk to Corey. Watsaku, how's it going? This guy lives at his mommy's house? Excuse me, that's clean laundry, number one. I just haven't been able to fold it yet. I'm doing that after stream, and this is a freshly cleaned room. It's just it's where we keep all the stuff that we don't want in our living room. Yeah, mom joined to scold me on laundry. All right, Corey.
Yo. Let me mute the stream. You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Yeah, I got a grief with, especially after the hearing on anti-Semitism on the 7th. I'm not sure if you saw it, but yeah, I know I'm saying liberals like to clutch pearls, which they do, but the Republicans also do. I'm just making that a statement.
Liberals clutch pearls Why are you saying that? In
Did you
response
watch
to
the
what?
hearing on anti-Semitism the other day? It was all lives mattering, like basically the whole time.
I have not had a chance. There's a million things going on, and I also have stuff to take care of in my
I know,
real
but
life.
you should check it out because that's what I'm mad about. Because the liberals are the people that were all lives mattering.
I I'm
Not you,
not even
but
going to.
liberals.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to just take that at face value. If you thought
You don't
if
have
what
to. You
well
should
the
check it
thing
out.
is I maybe I will. The thing is the statements that I said were not at all. I don't think that they're objectionable whatsoever. I didn't. Uh,
I'm not saying anything about you. I'm just mad at liberals in general.
what
And I know you're a
what did
liberal,
I
so you're
say
taking
that's
that
what?
face to that.
Well, what did I say that's different from like probably the average liberal
I'm not.
take?
I'm not. I'm not targeting you
No,
per
I'm
se.
saying
I'm just
I'm
saying
asking what's
I'm
wrong with
grieved.
the take.
And I have no take a problem with your take. I don't think. Which take are we talking about?
The take is Israel, because Trump won the election, is going full maximalist mode. They're they're going to actually ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip, which is the thing that we've been telling everyone that they're not doing because we thought that they had fucking restraints on them, right? So now
Is
they're
any
going through.
population transfer in the Gaza Strip, would that be considered ethnic cleansing if the population is basically 99 to 100% Arab?
I'm sorry. I don't care about this argument. We have set
No, no,
standards.
you haven't heard this
I'm just
argument.
going to
This is
say
just,
really quick. I'm just going to say really quick that the entire past 2 years of this conflict that we've been watching, or year and a half so far, that we've been watching this happen, I have set limits on what kinds of things I would be okay with seeing, and at what point that they probably need to stop doing things and start considering, a
it's
a
totally
plan
understandable
forward.
from your point
But
of view. You're not a war expert. You don't know much about what's going on, so it's totally understandable. But
no,
go on.
this has nothing to do with military operations. This is a political
Okay.
decision that they're making. And the political decision that they're making is that no amount of pushback from the rest of the world, no consequences from the rest of the world are going to outweigh the benefits of taking over Gaza completely,
So you
possibly and
support
very likely.
unilateral actions when it comes to Gaza?
I don't support unilateral actions like
Okay,
that.
well, it needs to
No.
be people making sacrifices because that's what needs to
Wow,
happen for the
congratulations.
yeah.
You've arrived at my position. But also, Israel is making this
I've
unilateral
never
action.
that was always my position.
Well, you just interjected in the middle of me
You
speaking
put words
to.
in my mouth apparently if you assume that. Okay.
Well, you're interjecting in a way that makes it seem like you're disagreeing with what I'm saying.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, the only person that can tell me if you disagree with what I'm saying is you.
Well, you have to clarify that by asking the question.
Okay, well, what is the question what is the clarifying question?
I don't even know anymore.
Okay, I think that Israel, at this point, I fully supported them killing as much of Hamas as they could possibly get, because realistically, it is impossible to kill 100% of a fucking terrorist organization or some sort of like criminal gang like that. That's just like the reality. Sorry if that military expertise might be a little bit too layman for you, but I think it might be just common knowledge. All right. So I was fine with them killing Hamas. I was fine with them blowing the fuck up out of Hezbollah, even going so far as to escalate that war to the point where they eventually wiped out basically the entire, military apparatus, like the leadership apparatus of Hezbollah. I was down for that. I was down for them, even to a certain extent, bombing inside of Syria when it's thought maybe there's some stuff that's going to come in from there after Syria
you
fell.
don't believe in Israel's two goals, to eliminate Hamas and to get the second one is to get the hostages back. So you don't believe that in Israel's two goals, main goals. That's like their basically only goal. So you already say
Mine
Israel
are
can't win, you're
reasonable.
saying.
Well, if their end goal is
that what you're saying?
if their end goal is to eliminate 100% of Hamas, then yeah, it is impossible for them
It's
to win.
not to eliminate 100% of Hamas. It's
Oh,
to
okay,
take
then-
away Hamas's. It's to take away Hamas's ability to govern in the Gaza Strip.
Okay, do you think that Hamas has the ability to govern in the
They've
Gaza
been
Strip right now?
weakened enough so that there have been the first
Okay, so do
anti-Hamas
you think
protests
do you think
ever in the
sure.
Gaza.
Do
Not
you think
ever,
that
for
do you think
probably
that
a
they
long
need
time.
to do you think that they need to do population transfers and completely wipe out the
Do you
population
believe
there?
that the population transfers should be done in order to maximize the amount of lives saved?
If the option
That's what
is,
I believe.
well, hold on. If you're saying, well, we have to do population transfers because otherwise Israel's going to kill them, I would just say Israel should just probably not kill them then. And it should probably find
Oh,
some
so you're just
other
saying Israel should
option.
just give up their goal in the war and let Hamas win. Got it. Okay. Thanks.
You should
Got it.
find the nearest firearm and you should find the worst way to use it. We're going to end stream now. Corey, never come to my stream ever again. Never donate to me. Go and fucking cancel your subscription on fucking Kick. You fucking retard. You stupid piece of shit. I don't know why I gave him so many fucking chances on so many platforms to be, because I knew that he was insane, but I was nice to him because I thought that people like Reservoir were mean to him because he's a little bit of an extreme. But I thought that maybe he was just like maybe a little BPD or something. That is like actually fucking retardo mode. If you think that I have to like either say Israel gets to rape, murder, and like peel the skin off of every infant Palestinian baby, or else I'm anti-Semitic, that I draw a line at what they can and can't do. I'm sorry. You're actually a subhuman fucking freak if you think that that's the case. Jesus Christ. Anyways, because of the way that call went, I'm going to have to end stream. So I will catch you guys later, and I will have to apologize to Mr. Reservoir for ever questioning him on why he should be banned. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. Love ya.